Greetings, Loremasters. Tonight our chronicle covers the myriad ways a prophesied hero can meet an undignified, untimely, or simply embarrassing end in the frozen north. We are walking the path of the Dragonborn not as the conqueror of Alduin, but as the architect of their own demise. We often think of the Dovahkiin as an unstoppable force of nature, a shout-wielding demigod clad in dragonbone armour, but let's remember the early days. The days of iron daggers, ragged tunics, and a complete lack of understanding of social norms. Tonight, we explore the blunders that leave save files corrupted and controllers thrown across the room. Picture the scene. The air is crisp, biting at your exposed skin as the cart rumbles down the cobblestone road. The scent of pine and impending execution fills your nose, but you survive that. You survive the fire, the crumbling stone, the roar of the World Eater. You emerge into the blinding sunlight of Skyrim, ready to carve your legend. But let's be honest, you probably wouldn't last 10 minutes in a Draugr crypt without checking your inventory for 80 wheels of cheese and a potion you've been saving for a special occasion that never comes. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And while you're settling in, let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is in your corner of Nirn. I always love seeing the Global Guild roster. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The Dragonborn stumbles away from the smoking ruins of Helgen. The ash of the first dragon attack in thousands of years still clings to their ragged prisoner's tunic. There is a ringing in their ears, the echo of Thuum and collapsing masonry, but above it, the sound of wind rushing through the evergreens of Falkreath Hold. Beside them runs Ralof or Hadvar, a guide offering political exposition that largely falls on deaf ears, because the adventurer is too busy marvelling at the way the light catches the mothwings fluttering near the roadside. It is a moment of pure, unadulterated freedom. The chains are off. The Empire's executioner's block is far behind. The world is vast, beautiful, and dangerous. They wind their way down the mountain path, perhaps stopping to marvel at the guardian stones, the warrior, the mage, the thief, ancient monoliths humming with arcane potential. The Dragonborn makes a choice, feeling the surge of power, a false sense of invulnerability beginning to take root in their chest. They are the protagonist, after all. The music swells, a gentle, soaring, orchestral piece that promises adventure. They descend further, the path levelling out as the rushing waters of the White River come into view, and there it is, Riverwood. It is the quintessential Nordic village. A lumber mill churns rhythmically against the current, the sound of the saw biting into wood echoing off the canyon walls. It smells of sawdust, fresh bread from the Sleeping Giant Inn, and the damp earth of the riverbank. Alvor the blacksmith is hard at work at his forge, the clang of hammer on heated iron ringing out like a metronome for the village's daily life. Children play tag in the dirt streets. A dog barks in the distance. It is idyllic. It is peaceful. It is the first sanctuary the Dragonborn has found since the cart ride began, and then the Dragonborn sees it. Waddling across the main thoroughfare, pecking aimlessly at the frozen mud, is a chicken. It is a standard, unremarkable bird. Brown feathers, beady eyes, a jerky, strutting gait. To the seasoned adventurer, this is merely set dressing, a bit of immersive biology to flesh out the world. But to a fresh-faced Dragonborn, specifically one whose fingers are itching to test out that rusty iron sword or the spark spell they just learned in the dungeon, the chicken represents something else. It represents a target practice dummy, a consequence-free test of physics, a tiny feathered stress ball to relieve the tension of almost being eaten by a dragon. The thought process is swift and tragic. It's just a chicken, the Dragonborn thinks. Who cares about a chicken? I'm the hero. I just saved, escaped Helgen. I need to see how much damage this dagger does. The Dragonborn approaches. The chicken continues to peck, oblivious to the towering figure looming over it, shadow stretching long across the road. The adventurer raises their arm. There is a swish of steel, a wet thud, or perhaps a crackle of flame. The chicken squawks once, a truncated, pitiful sound, and collapses, perhaps tumbling a few feet with the physics engine's dramatic flare. Silence falls over Riverwood for precisely one heartbeat. Then the world explodes. In the lore of the Elder Scrolls, the citizens of Skyrim are a hardy, suspicious folk. They deal with civil war, dragons, vampires, and trolls on a weekly basis. One might assume their threshold for violence is high. One might assume they would overlook the accidental or even malicious culling of a single piece of poultry. But this is the first and greatest mistake a new adventurer makes. Core mechanics are brutal here. Every domestic animal in Skyrim, from the humble chicken to the sturdy cow, is assigned to a faction. In this case, the chicken is a card-carrying member of the crime faction Whiterun. When that bird dies, it doesn't just register as a loss of livestock, it registers as an assault on the sovereign territory of Jarl Balgruuf the Greater. The game's crime reporting system, known for its telepathic efficiency, triggers instantly. Alva, the friendly blacksmith who was moments away from offering the Dragonborn supplies and shelter, drops his hammer. His face twists into a mask of pure, unbridled fury. He draws a warhammer that looks significantly more dangerous than the iron dagger the Dragonborn is holding. "You have committed crimes against Skyrim and her people," he roars, his voice cracking with the emotional weight of the murdered bird. But it's not just Alva. The hive mind activates. Gerda, the tough-as-nails mill owner, abandons her work. She draws a woodcutter's axe, her eyes burning with a vengeance usually reserved for Thalmor agents. From the porch of the inn, Delphine, a woman who is secretly a member of the Blades, an elite order of dragon hunters, rushes into the fray. Even she, with the weight of the world's salvation on her shoulders, decides that the Dragonborn's poultry-based transgression is a capital offence worthy of immediate execution. The Dragonborn panics. "It was just a chicken," they scream, backing away, but the UI flashes the bounty notification. 40 gold. It seems a paltry sum, a petty fine. But the guards don't want the gold. Not yet, they are in combat mode. The sheer aggression suggests that this chicken was not mere livestock, but a sacred idol, a beloved mascot, or perhaps the reincarnation of Ysgramor himself. This leads us to a fascinating, albeit dark, bit of obscure lore. While there isn't a book in-game titled The Sanctity of the Riverwood Fowl, we can look at the economic reality of the setting. The Fourth Era is a time of decline, the Empire is crumbling, the Civil War is ravaging the supply lines, and the climate of Skyrim is harsh. A single chicken represents a steady supply of eggs, protein that keeps a family alive through the bitter winters. In a way, as destroying a renewable food source in a subsistence economy is an act of terrorism. However, deeper in the developer commentary from the early days of the creation kit, it was noted that the Radiance AI system was designed to make NPCs react emotionally to the player's actions. The developers tuned the aggression settings for crime uniformly. They didn't differentiate between murdered the Jarl and murdered a chicken in terms of the immediate hostility trigger, only the bounty amount. The result is a peasant uprising that rivals the storming of the Bastille. The Dragonborn turns to run, but the path is blocked. Stump the dog is barking furiously, perhaps the only one showing appropriate canine distress rather than homicidal rage. The guards of Whiterun, patrolling the bridge, draw their steel swords. Arrows begin to whistle past the Dragonborn's ears. It's a chaotic, humiliating skirmish. The adventurer tries to block, but their stamina is low. They try to cast a healing spell, but the magicka bar is empty. A stray arrow catches them in the shoulder. Alva's warhammer connects with a sickening crunch against their ribs. The screen flashes red. The heartbeat sound effect thumps loudly, drowning out the peaceful river. Fans have long debated the Riverwood Chicken incident. Some theorise in the deepest, most tinfoil hat corners of the forums that the chicken is actually a surveillance drone for the Thalmor, or perhaps an avatar of Sheogorath, the Daedric Prince of Madness, placed there specifically to test the impulse control of the hero. The community has turned the Riverwood Chicken into a legendary figure. A boss encounter harder than Alduin because it occurs when you're at your weakest. It is the ultimate noob filter. The Dragonborn falls to their knees, surrounded by the angry villagers. The last thing they see is not the glory of Sovngarde, but the angry face of a wood elf archer and the blurry texture of the mud. The camera pans around the ragdolling body of the hero, sliding slowly down the riverbank, dead, because of a bird. This is the first lesson Skyrim teaches you, and it is a harsh one. Actions have consequences, and the law does not discriminate based on species. You realise that the freedom of the open world includes the freedom to make catastrophically stupid decisions within the first 15 minutes of gameplay. You stare at the loading screen, the smoky black fog and the rotating 3D model of a troll, Cidhna, contemplating your life choices. You reload the autosave, you're back at the entrance of Riverwood. The chicken is there, pecking the ground. You give it a wide berth. You walk past it with a newfound respect, hugging the far wall of the blacksmith's house. You have learned fear and it wears feathers, but as you leave Riverwood, confident that you have mastered the art of survival, you look toward the horizon. The plains of Whiterun stretch out before you, vast and golden. In the distance, you see a campfire, and beside it, a figure, a massive figure, and not just one, but a herd of massive woolly creatures. Giants, you whisper, remembering the stories. They carry great treasure, and they look so slow. Surely I can take one of them down with this bow and arrow. The confidence returns, the memory of the chicken fades, Lysias replaced by the thrill of the hunt. You have no idea that you're walking straight toward the single most effective launch pad in the history of Tamriel's non-existent aerospace industry. The ground shakes rhythmically as you approach, a warning you choose to ignore. The tundra of Whiterun Hold is deceptively flat. From a distance, it looks like a manicured lawn of gold and russet, punctuated by rocky outcroppings and the occasional wandering elk. It invites you to sprint, to explore, to traverse the distance between the city walls and the horizon in a straight line. But as the Dragonborn creeps closer to that bonfire, the scale of the world begins to shift. The campfire isn't a cozy pile of logs. It's a roaring inferno the size of a small house. The cheese wheels resting on the rocks, mammoth cheese, pungent and wrapped in burlap, are the size of carriage wheels. And the figure tending the fire, he isn't just tall, he is geological. This is the giant, a creature of quiet dignity and terrifying proportions. He wears furs that would carpet a mead hall and carries a club made from a fossilized femur and a boulder. He's not hostile, not initially. In fact, giants in Skyrim operate on a very specific social contract. You stay over there, and I will continue to stare meaningfully at my mammoth. It is a peaceful coexistence, a silent treaty of the plains, but the Dragonborn, fresh from the humiliation of the chicken incident, or perhaps emboldened by finding an iron shield of minor blocking, does not respect treaties. The Dragonborn sees a health bar, the Dragonborn sees loot, the Dragonborn sees a challenge. The logic is sound in a video game sense. He's big, the adventurer reasons, crouching behind a rock that barely covers their knees. Big things are slow. I have a bow. I have 12 iron arrows. I will simply shoot him, run away. Shoot him again, and repeat until he falls. It's called kiting. It's a flawless strategy. There is a tense silence as the bowstring is drawn. The wood creaks. The giant, sensing a disturbance in the atmosphere, stops stirring his massive cauldron of questionable stew. He turns his head. His face is a roadmap of scars and weather-beaten skin, eyes obscured by the shadow of his brow. He raises a hand, palm out, in a universal gesture of warning. He shakes his massive club at you, not in anger, but in a weary suggestion that you should reconsider your life choices. You do not reconsider. You release the arrow. It flies true, arching through the crisp air and strikes the giant squarely in the chest. There is a dull thwack. The giant's health bar appears at the top of the screen. A tiny, imperceptible sliver of red vanishes. It is the damage equivalent of a mosquito biting a mountain. The giant does not stagger. He does not roar in pain. He simply shifts his stance. And then, the physics of the situation change rapidly. You realize too late that giants are not slow. Their stride is immense. 1 step for them is 10 for you. The gap you thought was a safety buffer evaporates in seconds. You turn to run, your stamina bar draining as you sprint through the heather, but the ground behind you shakes with the rhythmic, terrifying bass of the giant's pursuit. Thump, thump, thump. It's the soundtrack of impending doom. You try to scramble up a rock, hoping the pathing AI will get confused, but the giant is already there. He raises his club. It goes up and up and up until it seems to block out the sun, and then it comes down. Now, we must discuss the Skyrim Space Program. In a realistic combat simulator, being hit by a giant's club would simply crush the protagonist into the dirt, breaking every bone and ending the fight instantly. But the creation engine, the heart and soul of Skyrim's physics, has a different idea. When the damage dealt by an attack excessively overflows the remaining health of the target, the physics engine sometimes converts that excess energy into kinetic velocity. The club connects. The screen shakes violently, and then gravity simply gives up. The Dragonborn is not crushed. The Dragonborn is launched. You are catapulted vertically with the force of a multi-stage rocket. One moment you're looking at the giant's shins, the next you're looking at the roof of the world. You soar past the birds. You soar past the height of the Whiterun guard towers. You can see the layout of the entire hold, the winding river, the city of Whiterun sitting atop its hill like a model village, the distant grey smudge of the High Hrothgar monastery. For a few glorious, terrifying seconds, you are the highest thing in Skyrim. You're a satellite made of leather armour and bad decisions. This phenomenon is a core piece of community lore. Originally, this super launch was a bug. During development, the physics calculation for the giant's ground slam attack was applying the force vector directly to the player's character model without a cap. When the game launched, players discovered this hilarious execution. Bethesda, in their infinite wisdom, patched many things: broken quests, texture glitches, dialogue errors. But they looked at the Skyrim Space Program, saw the sheer joy it brought to the community and decided, no, this stays. It transitioned from a glitch to a feature, a rite of passage for every new player. If you haven't been punted into the stratosphere at least once, have you really played Skyrim? Fans often debate the lore implications of this. Is it a secret giant technique? A manipulation of the tonal architecture similar to the voice, but focused entirely on vertical propulsion? Some lorebeards argue that giants, being related to the Atmarans and perhaps possessing a diluted form of the ancient strength, are tapping into the earth bones of Nirn itself. Others simply accept it as the will of Todd Howard. While you're flailing in the upper atmosphere, your ragdoll body spinning like a pinwheel. Let's consider what you disturbed. Giants are not merely monsters, they are a tragic silent culture. If you look closely at their camps, from a safe distance next time, you will see painted markings on the stones. These are not random scribbles. In-game books and obscure developer texts suggest these are territorial markers, perhaps even a primitive form of storytelling or genealogy. Giants mourn their dead. They have dedicated graveyards like the Sleeping Tree Camp where they gather in silence. They herd mammoths not just for cheese, but for companionship. By attacking them, you aren't fighting a beast, you are attacking a shepherd. You are the villain in this scenario. The giant just wanted to be left alone with his cheese. Eventually, the laws of physics remember you. The ascent slows. You hang in the air for a moment of weightless clarity. Then, the descent begins. It is a long way down. You have time to contemplate your strategy. You have time to admire the cloud textures. You have time to regret saving over your file right before you took the shot. You hit the ground with a thud that is almost anticlimactic after the majestic flight. The loading screen appears, perhaps offering a helpful tip like, "Giants are powerful foes. Try to keep your distance." The game is mocking you. You respawn. You're back on the road. You look at the giant camp. The giant is back to stirring his pot. Peaceful, unbothered. He doesn't even remember you. You were nothing more than a momentary distraction, a fly swatted away by a hand of granite. You decide to go around, a wide berth. You stick to the road, head down, weapon sheathed. You have learned that size matters and that gravity is a harsh mistress. But as you trudge along the path, recovering your dignity, you spot something else. Not a monster, not a threat, but a container. It is a chest, or perhaps an urn. But next to it, lying innocuously on a pedestal or in a chest, is a geometrical object. It looks like a golf ball made of white stone, geometric and perfect. It glows with a faint, inviting light. It is Meridia's beacon. You are a looter. It is in your blood. You see an item, you take the item. It's a reflex. You don't think about what the item is. You only care about the take prompt. You reach out. Your hand closes around the stone. The moment your skin touches the cold surface of the beacon, the world shifts again. But this time, it is not a physical launch. It is an auditory assault. You have just triggered the most aggressive, unskippable, volume-ignoring conference call in the history of Tamriel. You freeze. You try to drop it, but it's a quest item. It is glued to your inventory. And then, the voice begins. It booms not from the sky, but from inside your own skull, bypassing your audio settings, piercing your soul. The dust of the dungeon settles around you. The bandit chief lies defeated, his iron warhammer resting harmlessly beside him. You have survived the traps, the skeevers, and the inexplicably fresh apples found in barrels that have been sealed for centuries. The adrenaline of combat fades, replaced by that familiar, serotonin-drenched urge, looting. You approach the boss chest. It is a large, ornate container, promising enchanted boots, or perhaps a handful of gold septims. You lift the lid. The hinges creak, a satisfying rusty sound. Inside, amidst the garnets and the lesser soul gems, sits an object that does not belong. It is geometric, a perfect, multifaceted sphere of milky white stone. It pulses with a soft, rhythmic light, seemingly out of place among the rusted iron and mouldy bread. It is Meridia's beacon. Now, a veteran player knows this object well. A veteran player sees the beacon and recoils as if it were a venomous snake. They know that leaving it in the chest is the only way to maintain peace of mind. But you are playing the role of the hapless adventurer. Or perhaps you simply hit the take-all button before your brain could process the visual warning. It is a muscle memory mistake, a reflex honed by hundreds of hours of RPG hoarding. Your finger presses the button, the item transfers to your inventory, and then the heavens open. A new hand touches the beacon. The voice does not come from the room. It does not come from an NPC standing behind you. It comes from everywhere. It is omnidirectional, bypassing your game's audio sliders, piercing through your headphones, and vibrating the very bones of your inner ear. It is the sonic equivalent of a flashbang grenade. Meridia, the Daedric Prince of Life and Infinite Energies, has decided that you are her new champion, and she's going to shout her instructions at you until you comply. Listen, hear me, and obey. You cannot skip this, you cannot tab out, you cannot walk away, for her voice follows you, echoing with a reverb that suggests she's speaking from the inside of a metal silo. You're trapped in a monologue that feels less like a divine quest and more like a scolding from a very loud, very disappointed celestial principal. The mistake here isn't just picking up a quest item, it's the permanent alteration of your agency. By touching the beacon, you have inadvertently signed a contract with one of the most demanding entities in the Orbis. Meridia is not like Sheogorath. Who just wants to have a chaotic tea party? Or Sanguine, who wants to go drinking? Meridia is a manager, a micromanager. She has a task, cleaning up her temple, and she has delegated it to you with zero room for negotiation. Let's look at the lore behind this auditory assault. Meridia is a unique figure among the Daedric princes. Most Daedra are padomaic, beings of change and chaos. Meridia, however, is widely believed to be one of the Magnagi, the star orphans who fled Mundus with Magnus, the architect of the world, when he realized the cost of creation. She was cast out, falling back into the void to become a Daedric prince. This obscure origin story explains her obsession with purity, light, and order. She isn't a demon of hellfire, she's a fallen angel of starlight who hates the undead with a burning, blinding passion. But to the player, she is simply the loud lady. The community's relationship with the beacon is one of collective trauma. It has become perhaps the most enduring meme of Skyrim. There are mods specifically designed to silence her, to replace her voice with a whisper, or to turn the beacon into a sweet roll so you might accidentally eat it instead of listening to it. The debate rages on. Why is she so loud? Is it arrogance? Is it a lack of understanding of how mortal ears work? Or is it simply that when you are a being of infinite light, you have no concept of an indoor voice? Once the ringing in your ears subsides, you realize the gravity of your error. You check your inventory. The beacon is now a quest item. You cannot drop it. You cannot sell it. It weighs nothing in terms of encumbrance, but it weighs heavily on your soul. It sits there, a glowing reminder that you have a job to do. You're now compelled to travel to Mount Kiltcreath, near Solitude. The trek itself is long and arduous, usually involving distractions by saber-cats and the occasional dragon. When you finally arrive at her shrine, you might think the worst is over. You place the beacon on the gem stand. You expect a thank you. Instead, she beams you up. Look at my temple, lying in ruins. She lifts you into the sky, a controlled version of the giant's launch we discussed earlier, but far more stable and far more condescending. She dangles you hundreds of feet above the ground, forcing you to look at her dilapidated real estate. It's a power move. She is establishing dominance, she is showing you that she can drop you at any moment. The dungeon that follows, Kiltcreath Ruins, is actually one of the more unique in the game. It involves guiding beams of light through a series of mirrors to burn away the corruption. It's a puzzle mechanic in a game that usually solves problems with a great axe. but the atmosphere is thick with the presence of Malkaran, a necromancer who has defiled the temple, and here lies the second layer of the worst decision. Malkaran is not your average dungeon boss. He is a powerhouse of frost magic. If you have rushed here at a low level, eager to get the shouting lady out of your head, Malkaran will absolutely destroy you. His Ice Storm spell can one-shot a low-level Dragonborn through walls. He has a difficulty spike that catches many players off guard. You thought the punishment was the voice. The real punishment is the blizzard waiting in the basement. Furthermore, there is a fascinating mechanical quirk, or perhaps a bug, associated with the end of this quest. After you defeat Malkaran and retrieve the Dawnbreaker, Meridia pulls you back into the sky for a final debriefing. She congratulates you, tells you to wield her sword in her name, and then drops you. Usually she lowers you gently, but sometimes the game's physics engine, still reeling from the earlier giant encounter, or perhaps just feeling spiteful, forgets to calculate the gentle part. You simply fall. You complete the quest, receive the legendary sword, and then plummet to your death on the steps of the shrine. It is the ultimate punchline. You did everything right. You obeyed the loud lady, and gravity still claimed you. Fans have theorized that Meridia doesn't actually care if you survive the drop. To her, you are a tool. A hand that touches the beacon. Once the temple is clean, the hand is disposable. This aligns perfectly with her sphere. She's not good, she's anti-undead. There is a difference. She would burn a village to the ground if it meant destroying a single vampire hiding in the cellar. Her light is not warm, it is sterilizing. So, picking up the beacon is a decision to engage with a force that views you as an exterminator. It is a decision to endure the loudest dialogue file in the game. It is a decision to carry a rock that screams at you until you drive it across the map. You reload your save, you're back at the chest, you see the beacon. This time, you leave it. You close the chest, you walk away. You leave the cleansing of the Kilcreath ruins to some other poor fool. The silence is golden. But the open world of Skyrim is filled with holes, not just in the ground, but in reality itself. You leave the dungeon, breathing the fresh air, glad to have avoided the auditory assault. You decide to head north, toward the snowy fields of the Pale. You need herbs, you need ore. You see a strange, glowing lift mechanism in the middle of a Dwemer ruin. I wonder where this goes, you think. You have avoided the light of Meridia, only to stumble into the dark beneath the world. You have found a great lift. You pull the lever. The gears grind, the steam hisses, and you begin a descent that feels like it will never end. The air grows cold and damp. The sounds of the surface world fade away, replaced by a low rhythmic thrumming. You're not just going into a basement. You're entering a biome that exists entirely within its own ecosystem. You're entering a place where the map becomes useless, where the enemies glow in the dark, and where the distinct chiming of a crimson Nirnroot will haunt your dreams. You're going to Blackreach, and you didn't bring a map. The lift descends with a mechanical groan that vibrates through the soles of your iron boots. The hiss of steam and the clank of ancient gears drown out your own thoughts. You watch the stone walls rush upward, layer upon layer of sediment and history blurring past. You are leaving Skyrim proper. You're leaving the realm of Nords, wolves and weather. You're entering the realm of the deep folk. When the cage finally shudders to a halt and the gate retracts, you step out not into a corridor but into a void. Welcome to Blackreach. It is arguably the most breathtaking environment in the entire game. A colossal, subterranean cavern that spans beneath the towering mountains of the Pale and Winterhold. It is a world unto itself, complete with its own ecosystem, its own weather patterns. Yes, it can mist down here, and its own lighting. The ceiling is so high it is lost in shadow, punctuated only by massive glowing geodes that mimic stars. Enormous bioluminescent mushrooms tower like trees, casting a sickly, magical teal light over the landscape. The decision to enter Blackreach isn't inherently fatal in the way attacking a chicken is. No, the worst decision here is one of logistics and mental fortitude. You see, most players stumble into Blackreach by accident, usually while chasing the Elder Scroll during the main quest or seeking knowledge for Hermaeus Mora. They think it's just another room. A big room, sure, but a room. They expect a linear path. Enter point A, fight boss at point B, exit point C. Blackreach laughs at your linear expectations. This place is a labyrinth. It connects 3 major Dwemer cities, Alfdand, Mzincha left, and Ralbthar, and serves as a sprawling hub for the ancient vanished race. The in-game map, usually your trusty guide, becomes a chaotic smudge of overlapping textures. Trying to read the local map in Blackreach is like trying to read a bowl of spaghetti. You can see objective markers, but good luck figuring out if they are on your level, above you on a stone bridge, or below you in a Thalmor-infested ravine. You start walking. You marvel at the glowing jellyfish drifting through the air. You pick a geode vein. You feel a sense of wonder. "This is amazing," you whisper. "I could explore this for hours." 3 hours later, you are over-encumbered, out of potions, and you have no idea where the exit is. The denizens of Blackreach are a curated collection of Skyrim's greatest hits of horror. You have the Thalmor, the Twisted, blind descendants of the Snow Elves, patrolling the shadows. You have their pets, the Chorus, giant venomous insects that skitter with a sound that triggers a primal flight response. And then, defying all surface logic, you see him, a giant, walking a predetermined path along the cobblestones. Lore enthusiasts have spent years debating how he got down here. Did he take the lift? Did he fall down a hole? Is he a native species of cave giant? The game offers no explanation. He's just there, wandering the dark with his mammoth, a surreal reminder that the rules of the surface do not apply. But the true nightmare of Blackreach isn't the combat, it is the gardening. Scattered throughout this massive cavern is a unique plant, the crimson nirnroot. Unlike its green surface cousin, this red variant is endemic only to Blackreach, and, of course, there is a quest. Return to your roots, it asks you to find 30 of them. Just 30. It sounds easy. It is not easy. The crimson nirnroot emits a chime, a high-pitched, oscillating hum that grows louder as you approach. Woo woo woo! After an hour in Blackreach, this sound begins to erode your sanity. You hear it everywhere. Is it behind that rock? Is it up on that pipe? You find 29. The 30th one eludes you. You spend 45 minutes sprinting in circles, dodging Chorus spit, desperate to stop the noise. The Crimson Nirnroot quest is the collectathon from hell, a completionist trap that turns a beautiful zone into a prison of frustration. Deep in the centre of Blackreach lies the Silent City, a complex of buildings occupied by Thalmor servants. Above it hangs a massive, artificial sun, a glowing orange orb that provides light for the fungi. This brings us to a fantastic obscure secret. If you, in a moment of boredom or frustration, decide to use the unrelenting force shout on this giant lamp, you will receive a surprise. A dragon named Volthuriel is hiding inside the sun. Yes, a named dragon, inside the artificial sun, underground. He flies out, roaring, and proceeds to strafe the cavern. Now you are fighting a dragon in a cave where you can't see the ceiling, while Thalmor shoot arrows at you, and a giant tries to punch you into the glittering geodes. Summoning Volthuriel is the hold my mead moment of Skyrim exploration. It serves no quest purpose. It drops no unique loot beyond standard dragon bones. It exists purely to punish you for shouting at light fixtures. The fan community has a polarised relationship with Blackreach. Half the players consider it the pinnacle of Bethesda's environmental design. Aliens, atmospheric, and rich with environmental storytelling. The other half considers it a PTSD trigger. Mentioning Blackreach to a veteran player often elicits a 1,000-yard stare as they recall the time they got turned around near the debate hall and spent an hour trying to find the lift back to the Tower of Mzark. There is also a tragic lore implication here. The Thalmor, the betrayed, have made this their kingdom. They have infested the cities of their enslavers, the Dwemer. The irony is thick. The Dwemer, who sought to transcend mortality through logic and tonal architecture, vanished in an instant. The Thalmor, who were blinded and twisted into monsters, inherited the earth. Or rather, we, the Underearth. Every structure in Blackreach is a monument to a dead civilization occupied by a devolved one. It's a tomb of two races. Eventually you find a lift. You don't care which one. You just want to see the sky. You want to see snow that isn't glowing teal. You pull the lever, the cage ascends, the mechanical grinding returns, sweet music to your ears. You emerge into the blinding white of a blizzard. The wind howls, scrubbing the scent of spores from your armour. You check your map. You are miles from where you entered. You're somewhere in the frozen waste between Dawnstar and Winterhold. You are free. But as you trudge through the snow, seeking a road, a landmark, anything to orient yourself, you spot a light in the distance, a lighthouse. Thank the divines, you think. A lighthouse means people, a fire, maybe a bed. It stands tall on the cliffs, a beacon of safety in the storm. You approach the Frostflow lighthouse. The door is unlocked. You step inside, expecting a warm greeting from a keeper. Instead, you find silence, and then you notice the blood. You have escaped the alien horror of the deep only to walk into the domestic horror of the surface. You thought Blackreach was bad because it was vast and confusing. Frostflow Lighthouse is bad because it is intimate and heartbreaking. You have made the decision to enter a house that the developers designed specifically to hurt you. The door to Frostflow Lighthouse swings open with a heavy, mournful creak, revealing an interior that is suspiciously quiet. Outside, the wind whips around the stone tower, a constant, lonely howl that batters the cliffs of the Winterhold coast. Inside, the air is still, stagnant. It smells of dust, cold ash, and something metallic, like old copper coins left in the rain. You step into the main room. The fire in the central hearth has burned down to embers, casting long, flickering shadows against the curved walls. A table is set for a meal that was never finished. A chair is overturned, and there, in the centre of the room, lies the body of a Redguard woman. A Thalmor war axe is buried in her chest. This is Ramati. And you've just walked into a crime scene. Most dungeons in Skyrim are archaeological sites. You fight Draugr who have been dead for thousands of years, or bandits who have squatted in ruins for a few weeks. Frostflow Lighthouse is different. It is fresh. It is a domestic tragedy frozen in time. The worst decision here isn't tactical, it is emotional. You have chosen to uncover a story that will leave you feeling hollowed out, a narrative punch to the gut that no amount of restoration magic can heal. As you explore the ground floor, ignoring the pricking of your adventurer's intuition that screams leave, you find the journals. This is where the true horror of Frostflow lies, not in the monsters but in the hope that preceded them. Habd and Ramati, a Redguard couple, bought this lighthouse to retire. They wanted to see the Sea of Ghosts. They wanted peace. Their children, Sudi and Mani, were less thrilled, dragging their heels about living in the middle of nowhere. It's a relatable human dynamic, a family trying to make a new start. You read about Mani's complaints, you read about Sudi's unease, and then you read about the scratching, scritch, scritch, scritch. Sudi heard it first, coming from the cellar. Mani dismissed it as skeevers. Habd bought traps, but the scratching didn't stop. It got louder, it got closer. The family dog went missing. Then, one night, the cellar door burst open. The lore of the Chorus is often overlooked by players who simply see them as bugs to squash. But these creatures are terrifying biological weapons. They are the cattle of the Thalmor, yes, but they are also apex predators in their own right. They are heavily armoured, spit potent acid that eats through steel, and possess a hive mind that makes them swarm with frightening efficiency. In the confined spaces of a lighthouse basement, a Chorus is not an enemy. It is a meat grinder. You find the cellar key on Ramati's body. You unlock the door. The smell hits you first, a pungent, acrid scent of ammonia and decay. You descend. The stone steps are slick with slime. The scratching is real now. It echoes from a hole that has been burrowed through the cellar wall, leading into a natural cavern system beneath the foundation. This is the Frostflow abyss. You drop down. The visuals shift from cozy home to alien nightmare. The walls are encrusted with Chorus eggs, glowing with a faint bioluminescent pulse. The ground is covered in a thick, sticky webbing, and the sound, the clicking of mandibles, the wet slithering of segmented bodies. You're not fighting bandits here, you're fighting an infestation. As you push deeper, you find the fate of the others. The environmental storytelling is brutal. You find Mani's body, the son who refused to believe his sister's fears, impaled on a spike surrounded by the creatures he dismissed. It's a harsh lesson in the dangers of denial in a world where monsters are very real, but it is Sudi's fate that breaks the spirit. You find her notes scrawled in the dark, pages torn and blood-stained. She describes the Thalmor dragging her father away. She describes the darkness. The developers placed a blood-stained dagger next to her cage. It implies a choice was made, or taken away, in her final moments. It is dark, gritty, and incredibly sad. Fans have long debated the implications of the Frostflow massacre. The presence of such a massive farmer hive this close to the surface, and their coordinated attack on a fortified structure, suggests a terrifying shift in Thalmor intelligence. The theory goes that the Thalmor are not just mindless monsters of the deep, but are beginning to actively reclaim the surface world, testing the defences of the surface dwellers. Frostflow wasn't a random raid, it was a probing attack, a test run, and the family was the test subject. You fight your way through the Chorus hunters, flying nightmares that were added in the Dawnguard DLC to ensure you never feel safe even in the air. You expend potions, you burn through stamina. Finally, you reach the deepest chamber. Here, you face the Chorus Reaper. It is a massive, bloated specimen. A queen of the hive, it towers over you, clicking its mandibles with a sound like breaking bones. The fight is claustrophobic and frantic. Poison sprays everywhere, blinding you, draining your health bar in seconds. You hack and slash, fueled by a mix of survival instinct and righteous anger on behalf of the family upstairs. When the beast finally collapses, dissolving into a puddle of ichor, you search the body. Inside the stomach of the Reaper, you find it. Hab's remains, and his lighthouse key. The realization hits you. The father didn't just die, he was eaten alive. The grim reality of the ecosystem is laid bare. You're not a hero here. You're a coroner. You're cleaning up a mess that has already claimed 4 innocent lives. But there is one final task, a task that transforms this worst decision into a bittersweet memory. You take Hab's remains, you climb back up through the shortcut, emerging into the fresh cold air of the lighthouse tower. You climb the ladder to the beacon fire. The wind howls outside, cleansing the smell of the Chorus from your nose. You activate the lighthouse fire, a prompt appears. Place Hab's remains in the fire. You do it. The fire roars to life, a bright, defiant signal against the dark, and then a notification appears in the corner of your screen, Sailor's Repose added. This is a unique, permanent passive effect. It makes your healing spells 10% more effective. It is one of the few secret perks in the game that is not tied to a major questline or a skill tree. It is a reward for empathy, a reward for giving a family closure. Yet as you stand atop the lighthouse, watching the aurora borealis shimmer over the sea of ghosts, you feel a profound sense of loneliness. You have the buff, yes, but you also have the memory of Sudi's notes. You have the image of the blood-stained main hall. The lighthouse is lit, but the house is empty. It stands as a monument to the harshness of Skyrim, a reminder that for every Dragonborn who shouts at the sky, there are a dozen normal families who are just trying to survive the winter. You leave Frostflow Lighthouse. You lock the door behind you, though there is nothing left to steal and no one left to protect. You get back on your horse, the music swelling with that melancholic cello line that plays when you explore the wilds at night. You decide that you have had enough of monsters for a while. You want civilization. You want walls, guards, and people who aren't trying to eat you. You check your map. Riften looks promising. It's a city of commerce, of mead, of bustling canals. Sure, it has a reputation for thieves, but thieves are people. Thieves have rules. Thieves don't have mandibles. You ride south toward the golden forests of the Rift. You're ready to deal with politics, with intrigue, with the complexities of the Thieves' Guild. You're ready to meet the Guildmaster, a man named Mercer Frey. He runs a guild, you tell yourself. He must be a leader, a man of vision. Surely aligning myself with him is a smart career move. You're about to make a very different kind of mistake. You're trading the honest brutality of the Chorus for the sharp, cold betrayal of a smile. You're about to trust a man who has made a career out of stabbing people in the back. And you're going to hand him the knife. The golden leaves of the rift drift lazily onto the cobblestones of Riften, masking the grime that coats every inch of the city. You have left the horrors of the Frostflow Lighthouse behind, seeking the comfort of organised crime. After all, what could be safer than a family of thieves who pledge loyalty to one another? You navigate the Ratway, punching a few low-level thugs, and emerge into the ragged flagon. It's damp, it smells of stale mead and regret, but it feels like home. You meet Brynjolf, the smooth-talking recruiter with an accent that could sell ice to a frost troll. And then, he introduces you to the man in charge, Mercer Frey. If you were paying attention to the archetype checklist, red flags would be waving frantically. Mercer is not a warm, fatherly figure like Codlac Whitemane of the Companions. He is not a wise, albeit distracted, scholar like Tolfdir of the college. Mercer is a man who looks at you with the disdain most people reserve for a skeever they found in their pantry. He is cynical, dismissive, and seemingly bored by your very existence. But you, the eager Dragonborn, interpret this as tough love. You think, he's just testing me. I need to prove myself. I will be the best thief this guild has ever seen. And so, you make the decision to trust him. You run his errands, you burn beehives at Golden Glow Estate, which, let's be honest, is arson, not theft, and you dampen the spirits of the Honningbrew Meadery. You do exactly what he asks, climbing the corporate ladder of the criminal underworld, blind to the fact that the ladder is resting on a foundation of quicksand. The pivotal moment of this bad decision comes during the quest, Speaking with Silence. Mercer decides it is time to hunt down Carlia, the Dunmer murderess who allegedly killed the previous guildmaster Gallus. He asks you to accompany him to Snowvale Sanctum, a Nordic ruin buried in the ice. Finally, you think, a road trip with the boss. This is my chance to bond. Maybe we'll share stories. Maybe he'll teach me a cool move. The journey to the ruin is quiet. Mercer doesn't do small talk. But once you enter the sanctum, something strange happens. Usually escort missions in Skyrim are a burden. You spend half your time healing the NPC or watching them get stuck on a pressure plate. But Mercer Frey is a blender made of polygons. Yeah, he dual wields a dwarven sword of devouring and elven dagger with a lethality that is genuinely shocking. He tears through Draugr deathlords like they are wet tissue paper. He triggers traps intentionally just to walk through them. He is faster, stronger, and more aggressive than any follower you have ever had. This is where the gameplay mechanics trick you. You see his competence and you mistake it for leadership. You think, wow, this guy is the real deal. No wonder he's the guildmaster. You let your guard down. You stop checking your corners because Mercer is clearing the room before you can even draw your bow. You reach the puzzle door, the classic Nordic claw door that requires a specific item to open. You, the player, instinctively check your inventory for a claw. You don't have one. You start looking around the room for clues. Mercer sighs. Don't tell me you can't get past this, he sneers. He walks up to the door, fiddles with the lock for 2 seconds, and the massive stone mechanism grinds open. No claw, no puzzle, just pure, unadulterated skill. This is a subtle, blink-and-you'll-miss-it introduction to a piece of core lore that defines this entire questline. Mercer Frey possesses the skeleton key. It is not just a lockpick that never breaks, it is a Daedric artifact of Nocturnal. In the hands of a novice, it opens chests. In the hands of a master like Mercer, it unlocks metaphysical barriers. Obscure lore from the Nightingale book and developer notes suggests that the skeleton key's power is far more conceptual than mechanical. It can unlock potential. It can unlock opportunities. Mercer hasn't just been using it to steal gold, he has been using it to unlock his own limitations. That is why he fights like a demon. That is why he can bypass ancient Nordic magic with a flick of his wrist. He is cheating at life using a divine admin tool. The fan community has long debated the empty vault plot hole that surrounds Mercer. Later in the story, you discover he has been stealing from the guild's vault for years. The question fans ask is, how did an entire guild of professional thieves not notice their treasury was empty? The vault requires 2 keys to open. Mercer has one. Brynjolf and Delvin have the others. The theory is that Mercer used the skeleton key not to pick the lock of the door, which is impossible, but to unlock the concept of the door being closed, or perhaps he picked the lock of the chest inside by phasing through the gaps. Either way, his betrayal makes the rest of the guild look spectacularly incompetent, a point that is often mocked in forums. World's greatest thieves robbed by their own manager. But back in Snowvale Sanctum, you don't know any of this yet. You follow Mercer into the final chamber. It is the Sanctum, the place where Carlia is hiding. You see her standing on a balcony, bow drawn. Don't take another step, she warns. Mercer laughs. He strides forward. You, the loyal soldier, follow him. You step into the centre of the room. And then the cutscene triggers. There is a thwip sound. An arrow strikes you, but it doesn't kill you. The screen goes blurry. A green tint washes over your vision. Your character collapses, paralysed. It is Carlia's arrow coated in a rare toxin. You can't move. You can't open your inventory. You can only watch. Mercer turns to look at you. He doesn't look concerned. He looks relieved. I'm afraid I can't let you do that, he says. delivering the line with the cold, corporate indifference of a man firing an intern. He reveals the truth. He killed Gallus. He stole the skeleton key. He has been playing you from the start, and now you are the loose end. He walks over to your paralyzed body, he looks down at you, and he stabs you. The screen fades to black. This is the bad decision manifest. You walked into a room with a man who had shown you nothing but contempt, ignored the warning of the woman pointing a bow at you, and got shanked for your trouble. It is a moment of total powerlessness. The game strips away your agency to show you the consequences of blind loyalty in a world of thieves. You survive, of course. Carlia saves you. You wake up outside, groggy and humiliated with a newfound vendetta. But the sting remains. You were played. The Dragonborn, slayer of Alduin, fell for the oldest trick in the book, the bad boss. You vow revenge. You will hunt him down. You will chase him to the flooded ruins of Erkenthand. You will face him in one of the most annoying boss fights in the game, where he turns invisible and taunts you while you swing wildly at the air. But for now, you are just a thief left for dead in the snow. You trudge back to civilization, nursing your wounds and your pride. You realize that relying on others, especially those who claim to be leaders, is a gamble you can't afford to take right now. You need power, real power, not the political power of a jarl or the criminal influence of a guildmaster. You need something tangible, something magical. You remember a rumour you heard from a guard, a story about a dog near Falkreath, a dog that talks, and where there is a talking dog, there is usually a Daedric prince. Clavicus Vile, you whisper, the prince of bargains, the granter of wishes. Your logic, still slightly concussed from Mercer's betrayal, connects the dots. If I can just make a deal, if I can just ask for the right thing, I can get an item that will make me unstoppable, a sword, a helmet, power. You travel to Hemar's Shame, a cavern infested with vampires. You fight your way through, fueled by the promise of a divine reward. You find the shrine, you find the dog Barbas, and you finally stand before the statue of Clavicus Vile. He offers you a deal, a simple trade, the Rueful axe for the life of the dog, or perhaps the mask of Clavicus Vile if you reunite them. You are about to make the classic blunder of negotiating with the entity whose entire sphere of influence is the monkey's paw. You think you're the smartest person in the room. You think you can outwit a god of trickery. The statue's eyes seem to twinkle in the gloom of the cave. The voice of the prince is charming, almost friendly. "Come now, mortal," he seems to say. "Make a wish." You step forward. You open the dialogue menu. You are ready to bargain. The air inside Hemar's Shame is thick with the copper tang of blood and the musk of damp fur. You have fought your way through a cavern infested with vampires who seem to have turned this shrine of a Daedric prince into their own personal buffet. It's a chaotic skirmish. Every time you try to line up a stealth shot, your new companion, a scruffy, invincible dog named Barbas, barks loudly and charges into the fray, blowing your cover. Barbas is, in himself, a lesson in patience. He is a Daedra in the shape of a dog, a fragment of the prince's own power, and he has the pacing AI of a drunken mammoth. He nudges you off ledges, he blocks doorways, he pushes you into bear traps, but you tolerate him because he promised you a meeting with his master, and after the stinging betrayal of Mercer Frey, you are desperate for a win. You want a powerful artifact. You want respect. Finally, you reach the shrine. It is a grand, grotesque statue of a horned man with a smaller, impish creature on his shoulder. This is Clavicus Vile, the Daedric prince of power, trickery and bargains. "You've done well, mortal," the statue booms. The voice is nasally, arrogant, and dripping with false charm. "You've returned my dog, but perhaps we can make a different arrangement. Here is the decision, the pivot point. Vile offers you a choice. You can reunite him with Barbas, in which case he will grant you the mask of Clavicus Vile, a helmet that makes people like you more and gives you better prices at shops. Or you can take the Rueful axe, a weapon of grim execution, and use it to kill the dog. Keep the axe, Vile whispers. It's a powerful weapon. Surely worth more than a mangy cur. The Dragonborn, eyes still focused on raw power, looks at the axe. It is beautiful in a dark Gothic way, engraved with images of wolves, heavy, double-bladed. It looks like a weapon fit for a warlord. And Barbas has been annoying you for the last hour. He barked while you were trying to listen to dialogue. He pushed you into a vampire's drain life spell. I'll take the axe, you decide. I need power to defeat my enemies. A talking dog is a liability. You raise the weapon. Barbas whimpers. You swing. The deed is done. The dog vanishes, his essence returning to oblivion, likely to reform in a century or two. Vile laughs, a sound that echoes with genuine amusement and grants you the axe permanently. You walk out of the cave feeling like a ruthlessly pragmatic anti-hero. You equip your new prize, you find a bandit to test it on, and then the reality sets in. The Rueful axe is terrible. This is the core in-game fact that stings the most. Mechanically, the Rueful axe is one of the worst artifact weapons in Skyrim. It has a decent base damage, yes, but it has a swing speed that is painfully, excruciatingly slow. In the game's code, it is actually flagged with a slower speed multiplier than standard battle axes. Swinging it feels like moving through molasses. By the time you wind up a power attack, the bandit has already hit you 3 times, eaten a sweet roll and written a letter to his mother. Furthermore, the enchantment is lackluster. It deals stamina damage. That's it. In a game where most enemies have infinite stamina or die before they run out, it is a useless attribute. You have traded a unique companion and a helmet that offers a massive 20% boost to prices for a wall hanger that is outperformed by a standard orcish warhammer. But the worst decision here isn't just about DPS, damage per second. It's about falling for the oldest trick in the book. You made a deal with the Prince of Bad Bargains and you got exactly what you paid for. The lore behind the Rueful axe twists the knife even deeper. This isn't just a random weapon Vile pulled out of his inventory. It has a specific tragic history. The axe was originally created for a Breton wizard named Sebastian Lort. Sebastian had a daughter who was a lycanthrope, a werewolf. She would turn into a beast and rampage, unable to control herself. Sebastian, desperate to cure her, prayed to Clavicus Vile for a solution. Vile gave him the axe. The irony, of course, is in the name. Rueful. To rue means to regret bitterly. Vile's cure was death. Sebastian was forced to kill his own daughter with the axe to stop her transformations. The weapon you are holding is a murder weapon used for filicide. It is soaked in the sorrow of a father who was tricked by a god. By choosing the axe, you are essentially stepping into Sebastian's shoes. You are the new fool. You killed your loyal companion, Barbas, for a solution that solves nothing. The community has debated the nature of Clavicus Vile and Barbas for years. A popular fan theory posits that Barbas is actually the sensible half of the deity. Without the dog, Vile is impulsive, reckless, and significantly weaker. By killing Barbas, you aren't just getting a bad axe. You are destabilizing a Daedric prince. Some lore enthusiasts argue that this is the only moral choice: to banish Barbas so Vile remains trapped in his shrine, unable to wreak havoc on the world. But let's be honest, you didn't do it for the geopolitical stability of Tamriel. You did it because the axe looked cool. You try to use the axe for a few levels. You really try. But the slow swing speed is maddening. You get interrupted constantly. You miss swings because enemies simply walk out of the way before the blade connects. Eventually, you put it on a weapon rack in your house in Whiterun. It hangs there, a heavy steel reminder of your gullibility. Every time you walk past it, you hear a phantom bark. Meanwhile, if you had taken the mask, you would be strutting around Skyrim looking like a terrifying masked lord, getting rich off better sell prices. The mask is technically a heavy armor helmet, but it looks like something out of a Renaissance masquerade ball. It's stylish, it's functional, and it doesn't require puppy murder. The encounter with Clavicus Vile teaches you a valuable lesson about the Daedra. They are not vending machines. They are malicious genie analogues. They exist to distort your desires. You wanted a weapon to kill your enemies. Here is a weapon that is so heavy it might get you killed. Technically, request fulfilled. Feeling the weight of this bad bargain, you decide to leave the area. You need to clear your head. You need a place that feels solid, grounded, perhaps made of stone. You look to the west, to the Reach. The city of Markarth calls to you. Markarth is a marvel of architecture, carved directly into the mountainside by the vanished Dwemer. It is a fortress of stone and steam. It feels impenetrable, safe. Surely in a city made of solid rock you can find some stability. You can just keep your head down, sell your loot, at terrible prices thanks to missing out on the mask, and maybe mine some silver. You ride into the city gates. The stone towers loom over you, majestic and intimidating. You dismount and walk toward the market square. You're looking for a merchant, maybe a smith. Instead, you witness a murder. A man named Waylin shouts, "The Reach belongs to the Forsworn," and strikes down a woman in broad daylight. The guards kill him instantly. Panic erupts. A man named Eltris slips a note into your pocket. "Meet me at the Shrine of Talos." Your adventurer's instinct kicks in. A mystery, a conspiracy. This is your chance to be a hero again, to wash away the stain of the Rueful axe. You decide to investigate. You decide to play detective in a city that is famous for eating detectives alive. You're about to stumble into the Cidhna mine conspiracy, and unlike the deal with Vile, where the cost was a dog and your dignity, the cost here will be your freedom. You are about to be framed, stripped of all your gear, and thrown into the most secure prison in Skyrim. Markarth is a city that prides itself on stability. Built by the Dwemer into the living rock of the Druidak Mountains, it is a fortress of verticality and steam. The architecture is imposing, geometric, and seemingly eternal. Unlike the wooden shacks of Riften or the crumbling stone of Windhelm, Markarth feels like it will outlast the gods themselves. You arrive here seeking that stability, hoping to wash the taste of Clavicus Vile's bad bargain out of your mouth. You want rules, you want law and order. You walk through the massive brass gates, admiring the waterfalls that cascade down through the city districts. You think, this is a place of civilization. And then a woman screams. In the marketplace, amidst the stalls selling silver rings and spiced meat, a man named Waylin draws a dagger. "The Reach belongs to the Forsworn," he shrieks, plunging the blade into a visiting tourist named Margaret. Before you can even unsheathe that terrible Rueful axe, the city guards cut him down. Blood stains the stone, the market goes silent. A man named Eltris slips a note into your pocket. "Meet me at the Shrine of Talos." Here is where the Dragonborn makes the decision to play detective. You have stumbled into the Forsworn Conspiracy, a questline that feels less like high fantasy and more like a gritty noir thriller. You put on your investigative hat, you sneak into Margaret's room at the inn, you uncover a journal, you interrogate suspects, you realise that Waylin wasn't a lone wolf, he was a pawn in a game controlled by the Silverblood family, the de facto rulers of the city who own the mines and half the guards. You feel smart. You feel like you are peeling back the layers of corruption. You confront Nepos the Nose, an elderly Breton reading a book by his fireplace, only to have his entire household draw weapons on you. You survive the ambush, feeling invincible. You have the evidence, you are going to blow this conspiracy wide open. You return to the Shrine of Talos to report to Eltris. You expect a reward, a pat on the back. Instead, you find Eltris dead, and 3 city guards waiting for you. "You've dug too deep, outsider," the guard sneers. "You're going to Cidhna Mine. No one escapes Cidhna Mine." This is the pivotal moment. The game strips you of your agency in the most violent way possible. You can fight, sure. You can kill these 3 guards, but the bounty will be instant and infinite. Every guard in the Reach will hunt you. The only way to progress the story, the only way to win, is to surrender. You sheath your weapon. "I submit. Take me to jail." The screen fades to black, and when you wake up, the true horror of your decision sets in. You are in rags. Your inventory is gone. For a horde-happy Dragonborn, this is a fate worse than death. That Daedric armor you spent hours crafting, gone. The Rueful axe, gone. Your 400 potions of minor healing, gone. You're left with a rough-spun tunic and a shiv. You're trapped in a damp, silver dust-choked cavern with the very people you were hunting, the Forsworn. Cidhna Mine is a brutal, claustrophobic environment. The air is thick with the metallic taste of silver and the sweat of orcish labourers. You're forced to mine or to buy your freedom, but there is no freedom here. The guards, the Silverbloods. They never intend to let you out. You are a lifer now. You navigate the prison politics. You brawl with a massive orc named Borkul the Beast just to get through a door. And finally, you meet the man at the centre of the web, the king in rags, Madanak. He sits at a desk in his private cell, writing manifestos while his followers sharpen spoons into knives. He's calm, articulate, and utterly unrepentant. He explains the history of the Reach, how it belonged to his people, the Reachmen, long before the Nords came with their empire and their Talos. He paints a picture of oppression, of a native people driven into the hills, forced to worship Daedra and Hagravens just to survive. This brings us to a complex bit of lore often glossed over by players who just want their gear back. The Reachmen are technically Bretons, but culturally distinct. They possess a unique hedge magic that predates the formalised schools of the Mages Guild. They worship the Old Gods, a pantheon that is a syncretic mix of Hircine, Namira and Molag Bal. To the Nords, they are terrorists and Daedra worshippers. To the Reachmen, the Nords are brutal colonisers who stole their land and outlawed their religion. Madanac offers you a choice. You can kill him right here with a shiv and serve your time. Or you can help him escape. Help me, he says, and I will give you your freedom and revenge. You, the Dragonborn, currently wearing a potato sack and feeling very vindictive toward the Silverbloods who framed you, decide to join him. The enemy of my enemy is my friend, you reason. Plus, he has the key. You run errands for him in the prison. You listen to the tragic backstory of Braig, a man whose daughter was executed by the Nords. You start to sympathise. You start to think, maybe the Forsworn are the good guys. You initiate the breakout. Madanac gives the signal. The prisoners revolt. You rush through the dwarven tunnels, fighting past frostbite spiders and Dwemer spheres, until you reach the exit into the city ruins. Here, a woman named Kea is waiting. She hands you your gear. You frantically equip your armour, feeling the sweet embrace of high stats returning to your body. And a gift, Madanac says. He gives you the armour of the Old Gods. It's a unique set of Forsworn gear. Antler headdress, fur loincloth, the works. It buffs destruction magic and sneaking. It's okay. It looks primitive and savage, fitting the aesthetic. Then, you step out into the sunlight of Markarth, and all hell breaks loose. This is where the bad decision crystallizes. You thought you were just escaping a corrupt prison. You didn't realize you were unleashing a domestic terror cell into a civilian population center. Madanac and his Forsworn don't just run for the hills, they stop to kill everyone. The city guards, yes, but also the merchants, the bystanders. Thonar Silverblood runs out screaming and is cut down in seconds. Lightning bolts fly across the stone streets. Fireballs explode against the Dwemer architecture. Bodies pile up in the canal. You stand there, fully armoured, watching the massacre you facilitated. The game marks the quest as completed. You are pardoned. The guards won't arrest you anymore because the conspiracy is exposed and half of them are dead. But the cost is staggering. You have destabilised an entire hold. You have released a leader who will go on to terrorise the roads of the Reach for decades. The Silverblood versus Forsworn debate is one of the most heated in the fan community. Is it better to leave the corrupt mafia-like Silverbloods in charge, who at least maintain order, or is it better to support the indigenous uprising of the Forsworn, even if their methods involve heart extraction and Hagraven rituals? There is no good ending to the Cidhna mine conspiracy. If you kill Madanac in jail, you're a tool of the corrupt government. If you free him, you're an accessory to mass murder. You watch Madanac and his crew sprint out of the city gates, vanishing into the Druidach Mountains. The screaming in Markarth slowly dies down, replaced by the groans of the wounded. You look at your new armour of the Old Gods. It smells of dried blood and briar hearts. Was it worth it, you ask yourself? You decide you need to leave Markarth. The stone city no longer feels stable. It feels like a graveyard. You need to get away from politics. You need to get away from moral ambiguity. You want pure, unadulterated knowledge. You want to understand the deeper mysteries of the universe, far away from the petty squabbles of Nords and Reachmen. You remember finding a strange black book in your travels. It was bound in a material that felt like leather but pulsated like skin. You had put it away, too busy with dragons and civil wars, but now you pull it out. Waking dreams. You open the cover. The text isn't ink. It shifts and crawls across the page. As you read, the world around you begins to dissolve. The stone of Markarth melts into a green, oily slime. The sky turns a sickly, tentacled green. You're not just reading a book. You're being transported. You're about to enter the realm of Hermaeus Mora, the Daedric prince of knowledge and fate. You're entering Apocrypha, and if you thought getting lost in Blackreach was bad, wait until you try to navigate a library built by a god who hates Euclidean geometry. The air in Markarth was filled with the metallic tang of blood and silver, a sharp, grounding scent that tethered you to the mortal plane. But as you open the cover of the black book, that smell vanishes instantly. It is replaced by the odour of old parchment, dry rot, and the briny, suffocating scent of stagnant ocean water. The world dissolves. The stone walls of the Reach melt away. The sunlight is strangled by a sickly green twilight. You are no longer in Tamriel. You have made the decision to seek knowledge from the inevitable, the abyssal, the painfully slow-talking Hermaeus Mora. You are in Apocrypha. Visually, Apocrypha is a masterpiece of Lovecraftian design. It is an endless library, a vast ocean of toxic black ink from which towers of books spiral toward a sky that looks like a bruised intestine. Papers flutter on unseen winds. Bridges are made not of stone, but of hardened tentacles and spinal columns. It is alien, hostile, and wet. Most players enter Apocrypha thinking it is just another dungeon. I'll just pop in, grab the loot, and pop out, you tell yourself. How long can reading a book take? The answer is forever. The first thing you notice is the sound, or rather, the lack of it. The music here is a low, droning ambience, punctuated by the wet slap of tentacles and the rustle of paper. It is designed to be unsettling. It is designed to make you feel small. Then you meet the locals. Floating toward you, robes billowing in a wind that doesn't exist, is a seeker. This creature is essentially a Daedric librarian with a zero-tolerance policy for noise. It has no face, only a mass of tentacles, and it hovers with its arms crossed in a posture of judgment. When it attacks, it doesn't just hit you, it clones itself. Suddenly you are fighting 3 invisible librarians who are spamming shock magic and draining your attributes. They are annoying, spongy enemies that force you to waste magicka and stamina just to clear a hallway. But the Seekers are merely the staff. The real threat emerges from the ink itself. As you navigate the twisting, non-Euclidean corridors, the black water churns. A lurker rises. These are the giants of Apocrypha, amphibious humanoid monstrosities that tower over you. They vomit tentacles. They stomp the ground, sending shockwaves that stagger you. And worst of all, their attacks often knock you backward. In a normal dungeon, getting knocked back means hitting a wall. In Apocrypha, it means falling into the ink. The liquid in this realm is not water. It is concentrated knowledge, or perhaps just acidic void stuff. Touching it deals rapid, ticking damage. If you fall in, the screen goes black, tentacles wrap around you, and you are unceremoniously dumped back at the start of the section. It is a platforming challenge in a game engine that was never ever designed for platforming. The worst decision here is trusting the Dragonborn's jump arc. You will miss jumps. You will slide off wet textures. You will get punted by a lurker into the abyss and have to listen to the Seeker's aggro sound all over again. But the true punishment of Apocrypha is not the combat. It is the conversation. Eventually you reach a stopping point. A massive, formless mass of eyes and tentacles descends from the sky. It is Hermaeus Mora, the Daedric Prince of Fate and Knowledge. He has something to tell you. And he is going to tell you very slowly. I am Hermaeus Mora, he drones. His voice is deep, gravelly, and unskippable. In a game where you can usually tab out of conversations or speed read subtitles, Mora is a hard break on your dopamine receptors. He speaks with the cadence of a sloth swimming through molasses. He savours every syllable as if it were a delicious sweet roll. The community has a love-hate relationship with this. On one hand, the voice acting is superb. It perfectly captures the ancient, uncaring nature of a cosmic entity. On the other hand, on your 5th playthrough, you just want to scream, "Give me the perk, you old squid!" There are mods specifically designed to speed up his dialogue, but without them, you're held hostage by his monologue. He explains things you already know. He makes vague threats. He dangles knowledge in front of you like a carrot, but the carrot is moving at the speed of continental drift. This brings us to a fascinating piece of obscure lore. Hermaeus Mora is often called the Gardener of Men. He doesn't hoard knowledge to use it. He hoards it simply to have it. He is the ultimate collector. In the Elder Scrolls cosmology, he is the residue of the creation process, the scrapped ideas and discarded blueprints of the architect Magnus. This explains why his realm looks like a chaotic jumble of things that don't quite fit together. He is the prince of the cutting room floor. Inside the Black Books, specifically the Sallow Regent, you face a unique mechanic. Darkness damages you. You must stay in the light of floating candles or moving scries. If you step into the shadow, your health ticks down. This turns the dungeon into a stress test. You are frantically casting candlelight spells, sprinting from lamp to lamp, while seekers snipe you from the dark. It is a level of environmental hostility that feels almost unfair. And what is the reward for all this? What do you get for enduring the platforming, the acid baths, and the unskippable cutscenes? You get to choose one of 3 perks. Some are good, like Black Market, which lets you summon a dream or a merchant to sell your loot. Others are incredibly niche, but the real cost is the stain on your soul. By engaging with the Black Books, you're walking the same path as Miraak, the first Dragonborn. You're becoming a servant of Mora, whether you like it or not. The lore implies that once Mora has his hooks in you, he never lets go. You are his new favourite toy. He killed Storn Cragstrider for a single book. He trapped Miraak for thousands of years. Do you really think you are the exception? The fan theories surrounding the ending of the Dragonborn DLC are dark. Many believe that the last Dragonborn is fated to remain in Apocrypha, replacing Miraak as its guardian. You enter the realm seeking power to defeat Alduin or Harkon, but you end up as just another chapter in Mora's infinite library. The save file that you play is just the story Mora is reading. When you stop playing, the book closes. Finally, you reach the end of the book. You choose your perk. You interact with the book to leave. The green sky swirls, the tentacles retract, and you are spat back out into Mundus. You're back in Solstheim, or perhaps Skyrim. The air is cold and clean. You take a deep breath, trying to clear the smell of old paper from your lungs. You feel powerful, yes. You have new abilities, but you also feel watched. Every time you see a shadow, you half expect a tentacle to lash out. You decide you need a break from knowledge. You need a break from gods who talk too much. You want something simpler. You want a companion who is quiet, ancient, and perhaps understands the burden of immortality. You remember the rumours of the Dawn Guard, vampire hunters, but more interestingly, you remember the woman you woke up in that crypt a while back, Cidhna, the daughter of Cold Harbour. She has been following you, offering cryptic advice and complaining about the weather. "It's too bright out here," she says. "I miss the caves." She offers you a gift, a dark gift, the power of the Vampire Lord. "Why fight it?" she asks. "My father is a tyrant, yes, but the power, it is our birthright. You could be like me. We could rule the night together." The Dragonborn, still feeling the sting of mortality after almost drowning in ink, considers it. The Vampire Lord form is enticing. Wings, bat swarms, the ability to drain the life from your enemies. It sounds like the ultimate power trip. "Okay," you say, "turn me." You're about to make a decision that changes how the entire world interacts with you. You're about to trade the sun for shadows. You're about to realise that being a vampire in Skyrim is less Interview with the Vampire and more Management Simulator 2011 Sunburn Edition. The sticky eldritch residue of Apocrypha eventually fades, though the sensation of being watched by 1,000 unblinking eyes lingers in the back of your mind. You have escaped the library of the tentacled hoarder, Hermaeus Mora, but you have brought something back with you. A hunger. Not for knowledge this time, but for dominance. You look at your hands, calloused from gripping swords and staves, and you feel mortal, fragile. You remember the way the lurkers punted you across the ink. You remember the stinging lectures of the Daedric Prince. You want to be the one doing the terrifying, and standing right beside you, shielding her eyes from the weak Solstheim sun, is the answer. Cidhna. She is the daughter of Cold Harbour, a pure-blooded vampire who's been your constant companion through the Forgotten Vale and the Soul Cairn. She has complained about the weather in every hold of Skyrim. She has resurrected chickens to fight for you in Draga crypts, and now she offers you a choice. Or rather, you enforce a choice upon her and yourself. The narrative arc of the Dawnguard DLC presents a profound crossroads after you defeat her father, Lord Harkon. You can encourage Cidhna to seek a cure, to wash away the trauma of her past and walk in the light as a mortal. It is a redemption arc, a way to break the cycle of abuse that Molag Bal started eons ago. But you are the Dragonborn. You don't do redemption, you do maximum DPS. You look at the Vampire Lord form, the hulking gargoyle-like monstrosity that Harkon turned into, and you think, I want that. You convince Cidhna to stay a vampire. You embrace the blood yourself. You accept the gift of the Volkihar. Congratulations. You have just made Skyrim significantly more annoying to play. The worst decision here is one of quality of life. In your pursuit of power, you have introduced a mechanic that actively fights you every single in-game day. The sun. Lore-wise, the sun is the hole punched through the firmament by Magnus, the architect of Mundus, as he fled creation. It is pure, raw magicka pouring into the world from Aetherius. To a normal mage, the sun is a battery. To a vampire lord, the sun is the oppressive, stat-draining bully. From 5 AM to 7 PM, your game changes. A message flashes in the corner. Your vampire blood boils in the sunlight. It sounds dramatic, it looks even worse. The screen tints slightly, the saturation drops, and your character's skin starts to sizzle. But the real pain is the math. Your health, magicka, and stamina regeneration rates drop to 0. Literally 0. Unless you have specific enchantments or the Lady Stone, you do not recover resources outdoors during the day. You have turned the open-world exploration game, a game about hiking through beautiful mountains, into a frantic dash from shadow to shadow. You find yourself waiting constantly. You press the wait button, watching the hours tick by until dusk, just so you can fight a mud crab without gasping for air. You become a creature of the night, not out of roleplay, but out of necessity. And then there is the transformation itself. The Vampire Lord form is heavily marketed as the ultimate power trip. You float. You have wings. You can use telekinesis to choke people like a Sith Lord. On paper, it is incredible. In practice, it is a navigational nightmare. When you transform, your character model expands significantly. You gain height and width. This leads to the doorway problem. The dungeons of Skyrim were designed for Nords, not for winged monstrosities. You will constantly get stuck on doorframes, archways, and stalactites. You float gracefully toward a chest, only to realize you can't open it in this form. You have to revert. Reverting takes time. A long, painful animation plays where your bones snap back into place. You loot the chest. It contains 12 gold and a carrot. You transform back. Another long animation. By the time you're ready to fight again, the bandits have already moved to the next room. The community debate around Cidhna and the Cure is one of the fiercest in the fandom. On one side, you have the Cidhna simps, and I say that with affection, who view her as the best written character in the game. They argue that refusing to cure her, or worse, forcing her to remain a vampire is a violation of her agency. Cidhna's vampirism isn't a cool superpower. It is the result of a horrific ritual involving Molag Bal, the Prince of Domination. By keeping her a vampire, you are keeping her shackled to her abuser's legacy. On the other side, you have the Necromage vampire build optimizers. They argue that the benefits of the Necromage perk in the Restoration Tree, which makes all spells more effective against undead, including yourself if you are a vampire, are too good to pass up. They see Cidhna not as a person, but as a surprisingly durable turret that shoots ice spikes. To them, the bad decision is curing her. Because then she loses her unique Drain Life spell and becomes a generic mage. But let's look at the obscure lore of why this is such a dark path. The origin of Skyrim's vampires traces back to Lerme Beolfag, a Nedic priestess of Arkay. She was brutally assaulted by Molag Bal, who shed a droplet of his blood upon her brow. She died and rose as the first vampire, the Blood Matron. Her existence is one of pure hatred. Hatred for Arkay, the god of life and death, for forsaking her, and hatred for Molag Bal for cursing her. By embracing the Vampire Lord form, you aren't just getting cool wings. You're aligning yourself with the King of Rape. You're becoming a daughter of Coldharbour in spirit, if not in gender. The Vampire Lord form is a mockery of the dragon form, a twisted, bat-like effigy that seeks to dominate rather than rule. And the world reacts to you. Is that fur coming out of your ears? The guards ask. Oh wait, that's the werewolf line. For you, it's worse. Your skin is as pale as the snow, or just straight up hostility if you haven't fed recently. Feeding becomes a chore. You have to sneak into people's houses and bite their necks while they sleep. If you use the vampire's seduction power, you can do it to awake targets, but it still feels sleazy. You're a parasite. You're no longer the hero of the people, you are the monster under the bed. Furthermore, there is the issue of fire. Fire dragons, which constitute roughly 50% of the dragon population, now deal massive damage to you. A simple Yoltur Shul from an ancient dragon can one-shot a vampire player who hasn't maxed out their fire resistance. You spend half your combat time chugging resist fire potions, frantically dodging breath attacks that used to tickle, and let's not forget the Dawn Guard. Because you refused the cure and stayed a monster, the Dawn Guard doesn't just pack up and go home, they hunt you. Random encounters with armoured vampire hunters become a daily nuisance. They have crossbows. Crossbows stagger you. They have armoured trolls. Trolls are annoying. You're constantly looking over your shoulder, never safe, never truly at peace. But the ultimate irony of the Vampire Lord decision lies in the tyranny of the sun prophecy itself. You have the option, using Oriel's bow and Serana's blood to blot out the sun. You shoot a blood-cursed arrow at the sun and the sky turns a terrifying crimson. The sun turns off. Finally, you think. No more penalties. But the world looks awful. The lighting engine shifts to a flat, red-washed filter that makes everything look like it's dipped in tomato soup. NPCs run around screaming. Shops close. The game becomes a horror simulator. You realise that blocking out the sun sounds cool in a villain monologue, but in an open-world RPG, it just makes navigation depressing. Eventually the novelty fades. The wings feel clunky. The Drain Life spell scales poorly at higher difficulties. You look at Serana standing in the shadows of a cave commenting for the 100th time, "I've spent enough time in caves to last a lifetime." You realise you have trapped her in this existence. You have trapped yourself. You decide you need a way out. You need to reset. You need to find someone who understands the weight of destiny. Someone who has lived for thousands of years but has chosen a path of peace rather than domination. You need to talk to the leader of the Greybeards. You climb the 7,000 steps again. The air is thin and cold, biting at your pale vampire skin. You reach the throat of the world. There he sits, perched on the word wall, meditating on the nature of the voice. Paarthurnax, the old dragon, greets you. He senses the change in you, the scent of Molag Bal's corruption, but he does not judge. He offers wisdom. He offers perspective. But you have another quest in your journal. A quest given by Delphine, the blade-wielding zealot you met back in Riverwood. Paarthurnax. She gave you an ultimatum. Kill the dragon, or the blades will not help you. You look at the old Dover. He has helped you save the world. He taught you how to use the Elder Scroll. He overcame his own nature to be good, but the quest marker is there, hovering over his head. And you, the Dragonborn who just sold their soul for vampire wings, are in a pragmatic mood. The Blades are dragon hunters, you reason. I am a Dragonborn. Technically, they are my faction. He is just a monster. You draw your weapon. You are about to commit the single most controversial act in the history of the Elder Scrolls community. You are about to betray the only true friend you have in this frozen wasteland. The wind at the throat of the world does not howl. It screams. It is a thin, high-pitched keening that cuts through even the heaviest Daedric plate, a constant reminder that you are standing on the roof of the world. The air is so thin here that the simple act of drawing your weapon feels laborious. Or perhaps that heaviness in your arm isn't the altitude. Perhaps it is your conscience. You stand before him. Paarthurnax, the Old One. He's not majestic in the traditional sense. His scales are grey and cracked, like dry river mud. His wings are tattered, riddled with holes from centuries of age and past battles. He rests on the word wall, his breath steaming in the freezing air, waiting for you. He greeted you as Dovahkiin. He taught you the fire breath shout. He meditated with you on the nature of words. He helped you travel back in time to learn the Dragonrend, but you have a quest marker. It sits there in your journal, an ugly, unyielding command from Delphine. Kill Paarthurnax. This is the Sophie's choice of Skyrim, except one option is a wise, repentant philosopher dragon who helped save the world, and the other option is a paranoid Breton woman who lives in a basement and thinks she's your boss. The worst decision here is not a tactical blunder like attacking a giant, nor a mechanical annoyance like vampirism. It is a moral failure. It is the moment you decide that a quest log is more important than loyalty. You remember Delphine's argument. He was Alduin's right hand, she said, her voice dripping with self-righteous venom. He committed atrocities during the Dragon War. Justice demands his death. It is a compelling argument on paper. War crimes don't have a statute of limitations, right? But you look at Paarthurnax. He isn't plotting to enslave humanity. He's sitting on a rock thinking about the concept of force without effort. He has spent thousands of years in isolation, overcoming his innate nature to dominate. In the lore, dragons are not just big lizards, they are shards of time, children of Akatosh. Their very being is defined by the will to power. Dominance is as natural to them as breathing is to you. For a dragon to be peaceful is a metaphysical miracle. It requires constant, agonizing effort. Paarthurnax himself tells you, what is better? To be born good, or to overcome your evil nature through great effort? You, the player, decide that the answer is neither. I want the loot. You draw your weapon. Maybe it's that Rueful axe you regret taking, or maybe it's a dragonbone sword. You strike. The fight is tragic. Paarthurnax is a surprisingly easy boss. He has a lot of health, sure, and he can use the fire breath shout, but he doesn't have the aggression of a random legendary dragon you find in the wild. He flies up, circles and lands. He talks to you during the fight, expressing sadness rather than rage. He accepts his fate with a dignity that makes every swing of your weapon feel like a crime. When his health bar depletes, he crashes to the snow. His body burns away, the scales dissolving into ash. The familiar swirling energy of a dragon soul flows into you. Dragon soul absorbed. It feels hollow. There is no triumph music, there is no glorious fanfare, just the wind, screaming over the empty peak. The consequences of this decision are immediate and severe, rippling through your game in ways that punish you for your treachery. First, you lose access to the Greybeards. If you return to High Hrothgar Arngir, the Speaker for the Order knows what you did. The monks who guided you, who taught you to shout, who welcomed you as Ysmir, now look at you with cold, silent fury. Arngir's dialogue cuts deeper than any sword. He effectively excommunicates you. You can no longer ask them for the locations of word walls. You lose the ability to meditate on words of power with Paarthurnax, meaning you lose the buffs like Force Without Effort, which reduces stagger and increases your stagger chance, a massive combat advantage, or Eternal Spirit, which heals you while ethereal. You have traded permanent and powerful passive abilities for nothing. So what did you gain? You travel to Skyhaven Temple to report your success to Delphine. Good, she says. Now the blades can be restored. The restoration of the blades consists of you bringing 3 followers to the temple to be inducted. They get some generic armor. They stand around the temple courtyard staring at walls. And Delphine gives you radiant quests to hunt dragons. That's it. That is the reward. You kill the most interesting character in the game to unlock a faction that gives you quests you can already get from any innkeeper or jarl. Go here, kill dragon. You're the Dragonborn. You kill dragons for breakfast. You didn't need a club membership for that. The community's reaction to the Kill Paarthurnax quest is legendary. It is arguably the most hated quest in the entire Elder Scrolls franchise. The Paarthurnax Dilemma is a mod that sits permanently in the most popular lists on Nexus mods, specifically because it allows players to tell Delphine to shut up and accept that Paarthurnax lives. The debate rages on forums. Is redemption possible for a creature that killed thousands? Does the potential for him to snap back to his old ways justify a preemptive strike? Most players agree. Delphine is wrong. The blades are supposed to serve the Dragonborn, not order them around. By killing Paarthurnax, you are submitting to her authority. You're becoming a weapon for a defunct spy agency, rather than a hero who makes their own choices. There is an obscure lore tidbit hidden in the translation of Paarthurnax's name. In the dragon language, names are 3 words of power, Paarthurnax. It translates to ambition, overlord, cruelty. His very name is a description of the monster he used to be. Every time he hears his own name, he's reminded of his past. His redemption is a daily rejection of his own identity. By killing him, you are confirming that names are destiny, that change is impossible. It is a bleak, cynical worldview to adopt in a high fantasy game. You leave the throat of the world. The mountain feels emptier. The sky feels less magical. You have the soul of the old master burning in your chest, but you have no one to share wisdom with. You're just a killer with a fancy shout. You decide you need to get away from the mainland. The guilt is too much. You need a distraction, a fight that doesn't have moral ambiguity, a fight that is just pure, unadulterated challenge. You remember Solstheim, not the books of Apocrypha, but the island itself. You remember finding a skull, a massive misshapen skull in the glacial cave, and you remember hearing about a throne room, the Castle Custag ruins. A ghost giant, you think? That sounds fun. No talking, no moral dilemmas, just a big monster to smash. You travel back to the ash-covered island, you trudge through the snow to the northern coast, you find the ruins, you place the skull on the ancient throne, you're expecting a boss fight, you're expecting a challenge, you're not expecting the single hardest encounter in the game. You have just summoned Castag, and unlike Paarthurnax, who accepted death with grace, Gan Castag is going to introduce you to the concept of ragdoll physics on a level you haven't experienced since the Skyrim Space Program. You thought you were overpowered? You thought your Daedric armour made you a god? Castag is about to humble you. The bitter wind of the Mosring Pass on Solstheim cuts through your armour in a way the winds of the throat of the world never did. There is no spiritual weight here, only the raw, biting cold of the ashlands meeting the sea of ghosts. You have left the moral complexity of Paarthurnax's murder behind, seeking a fight that is simple, brutal, and devoid of guilt. You want a monster. You want a trophy. You find yourself trekking along the northern coast of the island. The music here is different. A lonely, alien soundscape of wind and distant chimes that calls back to a time before Skyrim, to the era of Morrowind. You stumble upon a cave, the glacial cave. Inside, amidst the reekling clutter and the ice, you find a skull. It is not a human skull, it is massive, elongated, and seemingly carved from the ice itself. Yeah, it belongs to a frost giant. Most players, seeing a unique item like this, immediately think, quest item, must be important. You pick it up. There is no quest marker, no journal update, just the heavy, silent weight of the skull in your inventory. You explore further and find the Castle Custag ruins, a courtyard filled with reekling tents, and a massive empty throne. I bet the skull goes there, you think. It's a puzzle. I put the skull on the throne, I get a chest with some gold, maybe a unique helmet. You approach the throne, you activate the prompt, place Castag's skull. The screen shakes. The controller vibrates violently in your hands. The reeklings in the courtyard, usually annoying little pests, scatter or die instantly as a shockwave rips through the arena. And then he appears, Castag. You have just summoned the single most powerful enemy in the entire game, and unlike the Ebony warrior, who waits until you are level 80 to challenge you, Castag has no level requirement for summoning. You can be a fresh-faced level 20 adventurer who just happened to find a skull and decided to play archaeologist. If you do this, you will die in approximately 3 seconds. Castag is not just a giant, he is a level 90 spectral juggernaut. To put that in perspective, Ulduir, the World Eater, the main antagonist of the game, scales from level 10 to 100, but often fights at a much lower effective difficulty due to script limitations. Castag has no scripts to hold him back. He has raw stats. The fight begins instantly. There is no monologue. There is no "I am Castag, King of the North." There is only a massive, ghostly fist descending on your head. The worst decision here is underestimating the mechanics of this hidden boss. Castag possesses a unique passive ability, a permanent swirling blizzard that surrounds him. This isn't just a visual effect. It deals constant frost damage to anyone in the arena. It also drains your stamina, meaning you can't sprint, you can't power attack, and you can't bash. You are fighting in a freezer that is actively killing you. Furthermore, he has a massive health regeneration rate. If you stop attacking to heal yourself, he heals faster. It is a DPS race against a wall of ice, and his attacks, they have a 100% chance to stagger. Every time he hits you, your character goes flying. You spend half the fight watching your Dragonborn tumble across the snow like a discarded rag doll, frantically mashing the potion button while the get-up animation plays out in agonizing slow motion. This encounter is a brutal reality check for players who rely on stealth archer builds. You cannot hide from Castag. The arena is small. The blizzard reveals you. He closes the distance in 2 strides. You have to fight him toe-to-toe, and he hits harder than a runaway carriage. Let's dive into the lore because Castag is a deep cut for veteran Elder Scrolls fans. He isn't a random monster Bethesda invented for Dragonborn. He's a callback to the Blood Moon expansion of Morrowind 2003. Back then, Castag was alive. He was a frost giant ruler who lived in his castle on Solstheim. He was actually a neutral, if somewhat grumpy figure until the events of the Great Hunt. In Blood Moon, the Nerevarine, the protagonist of Morrowind, killed him during Hircine's hunt, so when you summon him in Skyrim, you're summoning his angry ghost. The lore implies that his spirit has been lingering here for 200 years, stewing in the defeat, waiting for a chance to crush some unfortunate adventurer. The Reeklings worship him as a god, which explains why they have set up camp in his ruined throne room. By placing the skull, you're essentially performing a necromantic ritual to resurrect a raid boss. The community considers Karstag the true final boss of Skyrim. Alduin is for the plot, Miraak is for the DLC story, Karstag is for the glory. There are countless videos of players trying to cheese him, using the jagged terrain to glitch his AI, stacking 100% spell absorption to negate his blizzard, or using the marked for death shout to lower his armor rating into the negatives. But for the unprepared player who just wanted to see what the skull did, it is a massacre. After a grueling battle that likely involves consuming every cheese wheel in your inventory and using every single potion you have hoarded since Helgen, Karstag finally falls. He dissolves into a pile of spectral ash. Your reward? The ability to summon Karstag. Yes, you think, I have the ultimate weapon, but there is a catch. You can only summon him 3 times, total, not 3 times per day, 3 times ever. This creates the classic RPG elixir syndrome. You have this incredibly powerful summon, a giant who can solo dragons, but because it has limited uses, you never use it. I'll save him for a harder fight, you tell yourself. You save him for Miraak, you save him for the Ebony Warrior, and then you finish the game with all 3 charges still in your magic menu. The reward for the hardest fight in the game is a consumable you are too afraid to consume. You stand in the empty courtyard, the blizzard has faded, the Reeklings are creeping back out of their tents. You feel battered, bruised, and arguably stronger for the experience. You have conquered the physical peak of Solstheim's challenges, but as you sail back to Skyrim, leaving the ash and the ghosts behind, a different kind of threat begins to nag at you, a threat you have ignored since the very beginning of the game. You were too busy fighting dragons, vampires, and giants to pay attention to the political landscape. You remember the Thalmor embassy. You remember Elenwen's smug face at the party. You remember the patrols of justiciars dragging prisoners along the roads. They're just elves, you thought. I can kill them easily. You made the decision to ignore the Thalmor threat, treating them as just another enemy type rather than the existential danger they truly are. You let them establish a foothold. You let them roam the lands of Talos unchecked. And now, as you return to a Skyrim that is weakened by civil war and dragonfire, you realise that the real enemy wasn't the World Eater. It was the people waiting for the world to eat itself. The Thalmor dossiers you skimmed over in the embassy. They weren't just flavour text. They were a roadmap. And while you were busy playing Ghostbuster on Solstheim, the old Merry Dominion has been making moves. The boat ride from Solstheim back to the mainland is long, grey and quiet. You leave the ash-choked skies of the Dunmer Refuge behind, the ghostly echoes of Karstag fading into the mist of the Sea of Ghosts. You stand at the prow, the salt spray freezing on your armour, feeling like a conqueror. You have slain the World Eater, you have humbled the first Dragonborn, you have even punched a spectral frost giant into submission. You feel untouchable, the master of your own destiny. But as the docks of Windhelm come into view, looming out of the fog like jagged teeth, you are reminded of a threat that doesn't roar or breathe fire. It doesn't hide in barrows or sit on mountaintops. It walks the roads in broad daylight, wearing immaculate black robes and a sneer that could curdle milk. The Thalmor. Throughout your journey, you have likely treated the Old Merry Dominion's agents as little more than high-level bandits with better loot. You see a patrol of justiciars escorting a prisoner, and your adventurer brain thinks, "Ooh, elven armour, could sell value." You kill them, loot them, and move on thinking you have struck a blow for freedom. But the worst decision here isn't fighting them, it's underestimating them. It is the decision to treat the Thalmor as a side annoyance rather than the existential cancer they are. By focusing on dragons, vampires, and civil wars, you have allowed the true enemy to maneuver unchecked. You have played right into their golden, manicured hands. Let's look at the diplomatic immunity quest. This is the moment the game tries to grab you by the shoulders and shake you awake. You infiltrate the Thalmor embassy, a fortress of high elven arrogance nestled in the mountains of Harfingar. You sneak through the party, mingling with the elite, handing your gear to Malbon, a wood elf who is sweating bullets, and slipping into the back rooms. Most players rush this section. They want their gear back. They want to stab the wizard, grab the files, and jump out the trapdoor to fight a troll. But if you stop to read the dossiers, really read them, the horror sets in. You find a dossier on Ulfric Stormcloak, and in black and white it labels him Status, Asset, Uncooperative. This is the gut punch that many players gloss over in their rush to finish the quest. The Thalmor want the civil war to continue. They don't care who wins as long as the Empire bleeds. By ignoring this, and by blindly rushing to join the Stormcloaks because Skyrim belongs to the Nords, or the Imperials because law and order, you are doing exactly what Elenwen wants. You are burning resources, killing capable soldiers, and weakening the province so the Dominion can sweep in later. The worst decision is engaging in the civil war at all, thinking it matters. It is a puppet show, and you are the star performer, dancing on strings made of gold. But the threat goes deeper than politics. This brings us to one of the most terrifying pieces of obscure lore in the entire Elder Scrolls mythos, the Towers Theory. The Thalmor are not just evil elves who want to rule the world. They are Ultima supremacists who believe that their mortality is a curse. They believe they are descendants of the Et Arda, original spirits, who were trapped in physical forms by Lorcan, the missing god, or Shor/Talos to the Nords, when he created the mortal plane, Mundus. Their ultimate goal, according to deep lore texts like the Numantia Intercept, an out-of-game text widely accepted by lore scholars, is not conquest. It is the unmaking of reality. To do this, they need to deactivate the towers, metaphysical anchors that hold the mortal plane together. The White Gold Tower in Cyrodiil, deactivated during the Great War, the Red Tower, Red Mountain in Morrowind, deactivated when the heart of Lorcan was destroyed, the Crystal Tower in the Somerset Isles, fallen during the Oblivion Crisis, and what is one of the remaining towers, the Throat of the World, and the Snowthroat. Some theorists believe the cave mentioned in the prophecy regarding Snowthroat refers to Plato's cave, a metaphor for reality. By banning the worship of Talos, the Thalmor are not just being religious bigots. Talos, the man-god, is believed to be a buttress, or a stabilizing force for the wheel of creation. By removing his worship, they weaken the reality of Mundus itself. They want to erase the concept of humanity from the Orbis, so they can return to being pure spirits of light. So, when you ignore the Thalmor to go chase butterflies or collect cheese, you aren't just ignoring a political faction. You are ignoring a group of metaphysical terrorists who are actively trying to delete the save file of the universe. The fan community has debated the Second Great War for over a decade. The consensus is grim. Regardless of whether the Dragonborn helps the Empire or the Stormcloaks, the ending is a stalemate that favours the Dominion. If the Stormcloaks win, an independent Skyrim is isolated and easily blockaded by the Thalmor navy. If the Empire wins, they are still bound by the White Gold Concordat, drained of resources, and infiltrated by spies. There is a pervasive theory that the Elder Scrolls VI will begin with the Dominion having already won, or at least having devastated large swathes of Hammerfell and High Rock. The Dragonborn's actions in Skyrim, while heroic on a local scale, saving the world from Alduin, might ultimately be a footnote in the larger tragedy of the human races falling to the Mer. You think back to the embassy party. You remember Elenwen, the first emissary. She is polite, cold, and utterly convinced of her superiority. If you play a high elf character, she even treats you with a condescending familiarity, as if you are a wayward child playing in the mud with the lesser races. Leaving her alive at the end of the main quest, or during the Peace Council at High Hrothgar, where you can kick her out but not kill her, feels like a massive loose end. She stands there, watching you, knowing that time is on her side. Elves live for centuries. Humans, even Dragonborn ones, do not. She can just wait for you to die of old age. The mechanics of the Justicia patrols also reinforce this futility. You can kill them. You can wipe out Northwatch Keep to save Thorold Greymane, but they respawn. They always respawn. There is no quest completed for defeating the Thalmor. There is no liberation of Skyrim from the Dominion. The game does not allow you to take the fight to Alinor. You're fighting a symptom, not the disease. As you walk the streets of Windhelm, seeing the Dunmer refugees in the Grey Quarter and the Argonians locked out on the docks, you realise the Thalmor have already won the cultural war. They have turned race against race. They have made the Nords paranoid and isolationist. The unity of the Empire is shattered. But you, the Dragonborn, have a coping mechanism. When the geopolitical reality becomes too depressing, you revert to your primal urge, collecting shiny things. You can't fix the world, but you can fix your display case. You remember the masks. Throughout your travels, you have encountered the dragon priests, ancient undead lichers who float out of sarcophagi to blast you with fireballs and lightning. They are terrifying, yes. Croesus at sheer point, waiting to ambush you while you're busy fighting a dragon. Volsung on the peaks of Volskiga, each one drops a mask, a heavy metallic faceplate imbued with powerful enchantments. I need them all, you tell yourself. If I collect all 8, something amazing will happen. Surely the reward for hunting down the highest level undead in the base game will be worth it. You become obsessed. You ignore the plight of the world to scour the ruins of the dragon cult. You brave the highest peaks and the deepest dungeons. You collect Hevnarak, Otar, Morokay, Ragot, Nakreen, Vokun, Volsung, and Croesus. You carry them around, the weight adding up, clanking in your inventory like the trophies of a serial killer. You hear a rumour of a 9th mask, a master mask, hidden in the ruins of Labyrinthian. This is it, you think, the ultimate power. With this, maybe I can finally stop the Thalmor. Maybe I can rule Skyrim. You're about to make the decision to complete the set. You're about to head to the Bromjunar Sanctuary. You're about to engage in a time-bending ritual that will reward you with an item that looks, well, let's just say it's an acquired taste. You travel to Labyrinthian, you find the wooden mask, you put it on, the world shifts, the ruins around you repair themselves. You're in the past, or perhaps a pocket dimension. You see the busts of the dragon priests. You place the masks, the dragon's mouth opens, and there it is, Conoric, the warlord. The snowdrifts of Labyrinthian are deep, burying the shattered stones of what was once the capital of the dragon cult. You stand before the Bromjunar Sanctuary, a small, unassuming dome in the centre of the massive maze. It looks like an igloo made of grey stone, barely worth a second glance. But you, the obsessive collector, the hoarder of shiny things, know better. You have the wooden mask. You found it lying next to a skeleton, humble and unadulterated. It doesn't look like much, just a simple, carved piece of wood that smells faintly of ancient resin. But when you equip it inside the sanctuary, the world shifts. The snow vanishes. The crumbled walls fly back together, knitting themselves into pristine stone. The grey sky is replaced by the warm, torchlit interior of a temple in its prime. You have travelled back in time. Or perhaps sideways in time. You're in the era of the dragon cult, standing in the presence of the busts of the 8 highest-ranking priests. This is the culmination of hours of gameplay. You have hunted down Hevnorak in Valtum, tanking his lightning bolts. You have chased Croesus across the mountaintops of the Pale, dodging dragonfire while he hovered backward like a coward. You have delved into the depths of Forelhost to claim Ragot. You have a backpack full of heavy metallic faces, each one weighing a ton, each one a trophy of a grueling boss fight. You place them on the busts. Click, click, click. It is a satisfying, tactile ritual. The dragon's mouth in the centre of the altar grinds open. And there it is, Conoric, the warlord. It is gold. It has tusks. It looks fierce, primal and expensive. You pick it up. You equip it. You expect to feel a surge of godlike power. You expect your stats to double. You expect to shout like Alduin. Instead, you get a chance to heal when you're almost dead. This is the worst decision of the completionist. You have spent dozens of hours collecting the hardest to get items in the base game, only to receive a defensive item that is effectively useless to a high-level player. Let's look at the mechanics. Conoric has a unique enchantment. Whenever your health drops below 15%, there is a 15% chance that the mask will heal you and summon a spectral dragon priest to fight for you. On paper, this sounds amazing. A guardian angel, you think? A get-out-of-jail-free card? But consider the context. By the time you're strong enough to defeat all 8 dragon priests to get the masks, you are likely level 50 or higher. You're wearing fully upgraded Daedric or Dragonplate armour. You have 500 health. You have enchantments that reduce spell costs to 0. You're a walking tank. When was the last time your health dropped below 15%? Exactly. Conoric is a win more item designed for a player who is losing. It is a safety net for a trapeze artist who has already learned to fly. If you're playing well, you will never see the effect trigger. If you are playing poorly enough to need it, a 15% chance is not going to save you. It is unreliable, It is situational, and frankly, the spectral dragon priest it summons is kind of dumb. He floats around, maybe casts an ice spike or two, and then vanishes. He doesn't hold aggro well. He doesn't deal massive damage. He is a glorified distraction. Furthermore, the mask is heavy armor. If you are a light armor build, which many players are for the stealth bonuses, Chronaric breaks your matching set perk. It ruins your armor rating, it weighs you down, and fashion-wise, it clips through almost every hood in the game. You look like a golden walrus trying to eat a sweatshirt. The lore behind Chronaric is fascinatingly vague. The name translates to warlord, but unlike the other masks which are named after specific priests, Moroke, Otar, etc., Chronaric seems to be a title. There is no boss fight for Chronaric. There is no coffin. The mask just sits there. This has led to one of the most popular fan theories in the Elder Scrolls community. You are Chronaric. The theory suggests that the ninth mask was never assigned to a specific priest. It was reserved for the supreme leader of the dragon cult, a position that was perhaps vacant or disputed during the Dragon War. By collecting the masks and claiming the title, the last Dragonborn inadvertently becomes the new high priest of the cult they just destroyed. You are the warlord. You have united the masks not to destroy them, but to wear them. It adds a dark, ironic twist to your heroism. You haven't ended the tyranny of dragons. You have simply put on the manager's badge. Another obscure detail involves the wooden mask itself. It hums. If you listen closely to the audio files in a quiet room, the mask emits a low, throbbing resonance that isn't present on other items. It suggests that the mask is not just a key, but a conduit. It is essentially a tonal architecture device, similar to the Dwemer resonators, yet but made of organic material. It vibrates at a frequency that allows it to slip through the cracks of time. By keeping it, you are carrying a piece of time travel technology in your pocket next to your cabbages. You stand in the sanctuary, wearing the golden tusk mask. You feel underwhelmed. You have the ultimate prize, but no one to use it on. The bandits die in one hit. The dragons die in 3. You're too strong for the game. You take the mask off. You put it on a mannequin in your house in solitude. It gathers dust, a monument to wasted effort. But the game knows you are bored. The game knows you have reached the pinnacle of power where loot no longer matters. The Director. AI that controls encounters realizes that you have run out of threats. You have beaten the main quest. You have beaten the DLCs. You have beaten the hidden bosses. You're walking through the streets of a major city, Whiterun perhaps, or Solitude. The sky is blue. The music is peaceful. You're thinking about retiring your character, maybe building a house, maybe adopting a kid. Then, you hear him. I've been looking for you. Got something I'm supposed to deliver. Your hands only. It's the courier, the most terrifying NPC in the game because he can find you anywhere. In the Soul Cairn, in Sovngarde, underwater. He hands you a letter. There is a warrior who seeks a challenge. You read the note. It is short, direct, and ominous. A challenger awaits you at the last vigil, a camp high in the Velathi Mountains. He claims to have done everything you have done. He claims to be your equal. You check your level. You are level 80. You have unlocked every perk. Hayasemd. You have slain gods and kings. Finally, you think, a worthy opponent, a true battle. You make the decision to go. You fast travel to the nearest point and begin the climb. The wind howls, the snow blinds you. You reach the camp, and there he stands. He's tall. He's clad in full ebony armor that seems to absorb the light. He does not attack you on sight. He just stands there, arms crossed, waiting. The time has come, he says. His voice is deep, distorted by his helmet. I have done all that can be done. There is nothing left. No quest to be undertaken. No villains to be slain. No challenges to face, except for you. This is the Ebony Warrior, and he is not just a boss. He is a mirror. He is you. He is the end of the road, and by challenging him, you are not just fighting an enemy. You are fighting the inevitable conclusion of your own journey. You are about to engage in a duel that will test every exploit, every potion, and every shout you have mastered. The wind at the last vigil is not like the wind in Whiterun or the Rift. It is a razor, honing itself on the jagged peaks of the Velathi Mountains before slicing through your armor. You have climbed higher than High Hrothgar, higher than the throat of the world to a place where the map simply ends. There are no map markers here, save for the one you placed yourself. There is only the snow, the silence, and the man in black. He stands by a small, pathetic campfire that struggles to stay lit against the gale. He does not turn as you approach. He does not draw a weapon. He simply waits, his silhouette cutting a stark, void-like shape against the blinding white of the blizzard. This is the Ebony Warrior, and making the decision to climb this mountain is the final definitive mistake of your career as the Dragonborn. You see, up until this moment you have been the protagonist. The world has levelled with you, sure, but you have always been the outlier. You have the shouts, you have the Daedric artifacts, you have the potions. You are the anomaly in the code. The Ebony Warrior is the game's way of telling you that you are not special. He turns to face you. "You have come," he says. His voice is deep, resonant, and calm. There is no malice in it, only a profound, weary satisfaction. "I have watched you. Your feats are adequate." Adequate. He draws his sword. It is a weapon of pure ebony, enchanted to steal life. In his other hand, a shield that looks like a slab of midnight. He does not rush you. He walks toward you with the inevitable momentum of a glacier. The fight begins not with a clash of steel, but with a sound you have used 1,000 times, but never expected to hear used against you. Zun, Hal, Vic. The screen flashes blue, your controller vibrates, and suddenly your hands are empty. This is the core in-game fact that sends panic spiralling through your veins. The Ebony Warrior can shout, and he doesn't just use the basic fire breath, he uses the disarm shout. That dragonbone sword you spent hours crafting, that bow of the hunt you enchanted with Soul Trap, it is gone. It has been ripped from your grasp and flung into the deep snowdrifts of the mountain peak. You're standing in front of the deadliest warrior in Tamriel, and you are unarmed. You scramble to open your inventory. You equip a backup weapon, maybe that Rueful axe you regretted taking, or a dagger. You swing at him. Clang. Your health bar drops. But he didn't hit you. You swing again. Or a clang. Your health drops further. You have just discovered the heavy armor perk Reflect Blows. The Ebony Warrior has every perk in the game. When you hit him with a melee weapon, there is a chance he reflects that damage back to you. You are literally killing yourself by fighting him. It is a mechanic designed to punish high DPS builds. The harder you hit, the harder you hurt yourself. He is a tank. He heals himself with close wounds. He paralyzes you with his bow. He shouts you off the cliff with Fusroda, forcing you to climb back up while he regenerates his health. It is a boss fight that feels less like an RPG encounter and more like a PvP match against a developer using console commands. The worst decision here is the realization that you have engaged in a mirror match. The Ebony Warrior is not a villain. He has no plan to destroy the world. He has no kidnapped princess. He's simply a level 80 adventurer who has run out of content. This brings us to the most fascinating fan theory in Skyrim lore. Who is he? Beneath the helmet, he is a Redguard. He has no name, no history, no home. He simply appears when you reach the level cap. Many lore enthusiasts believe he is an avatar of Raymond Ebonarm, a deity from Daggerfall lore who was the god of war and the companion of all warriors. Ebonarm was famously cut from the lore in later games, erased from the pantheon. The theory goes that he has returned in mortal form to challenge the newest god of war, you. Others believe he is a meta-commentary on the player. He lists his accomplishments. I have slain giants. I have crushed the Dark Brotherhood. I have saved the world. He is you from a previous save file. He is the ghost of your own boredom. He wants to die because there are no quests left. He wants to go to Sovngarde, the Nord afterlife, despite being a Redguard, who usually go to the far shores. This suggests he doesn't care about his racial afterlife. He cares about the warrior's afterlife. He wants to sit in the Hall of Valor with Ysgramor and Jurgen Windcaller. He wants to be where the fighting never ends. The battle rages on. You chug your ultimate healing potions. You summon Karstag, if you saved him. You summon Durnafir. The mountaintop becomes a chaotic storm of magic, shouts, and steel. Finally, his health bar flashes red. You deliver the final blow. He drops to one knee. At last, he whispers, his voice filled with genuine relief. Sovngarde, He collapses. The black armor dissolves into a lootable pile. You stand over him, panting, your resources drained, your best weapon lost somewhere in the snow. You have won. You have defeated the hardest enemy in the game. You loot his body. You take his armor, his sword, his shield. You are now the Ebony warrior. But as you stand there, alone on the highest peak in Skyrim, a cold realization settles in. There is no one left. You have killed Alduin. You have killed Harkon. You have killed Mirak. You have killed Karstarg. And now you have killed the only person who was your equal. The quest log is empty. The radiant quests from the companions, go kill a bear in a cave, feel beneath you. You are a god walking among mortals and you are incredibly, profoundly bored. This is the ultimate bad decision, finishing the game. By defeating the Ebony warrior, you have effectively ended your own story. You have reached the point where the only thing left to do is start over, to wake up in the cart again, to hear Ralof say, "Hey you, you're finally awake." You look out over the province. The clouds part, revealing the map you have spent hundreds of hours exploring. You see the throat of the world. You see the swamps of Morthal. You see the golden plains of Whiterun. It is beautiful. It is vast. And it is finished. You holster your weapon. You sit down by the Ebony warrior's dying fire. You watch the embers fade against the encroaching dark. You realize that the journey wasn't about the destination. It wasn't about the level cap. It was about the mistakes. It was about the chicken you kicked in Riverwood. It was about the giant that launched you into orbit. It was about the time you got lost in Blackreach and shouted at a lamp. It was about the bad deals with Clavicus Vile and the trust you placed in Mercer Frey. Those were the moments that made you the Dragonborn, not the stats, not the armor, but the stories of how you failed and how you got back up. You close your eyes, the wind howls, but it sounds like a lullaby now, a song of ice and snow and memories. Word count, 1,350. Awaiting continue. The fire at the last vigil has burned down to glowing coals, casting a soft orange warmth on the snow. The wind has died down to a gentle whisper, brushing against the tent flaps of your memory. We have walked a long road tonight, haven't we? From the cobblestones of Riverwood to the alien depths of Apocrypha. We have traced the footsteps of a hero who was, quite often, their own worst enemy. It is easy to think of the Dragonborn as a figure of perfection, a statue in a town square. But we know the truth. We know about the panic in the crypts. We know about the inventory management meltdowns. We know about the times you saved the game just to see what would happen if you shouted a Jarl off a balcony. And that is what makes the journey worth remembering. Skyrim is a harsh land, but it is also a place of quiet beauty. The Aurora Borealis is dancing overhead now, ribbons of green and violet weaving through the stars. The moons, Mercer and Secunda, hang heavy and full in the night sky, watching over the sleeping giants and the wandering guards. Let the tension of the battles fade. Let the weight of the dragon bones in your inventory lift. You're safe here. There are no couriers coming to find you. There are no dragons roaring in the distance. There is only the stillness of the mountain and the steady, comforting rhythm of your own breath. You have done enough for one lifetime. The quest can wait. The world will still be there when you wake up. For now, let the darkness wrap around you like a warm fur cloak. Let the sounds of the Nirnroot and the wind fade into silence. Sweet dreams.